and verification of quorum, Chair Courts.
Lazo.
Present.
Reed.
Present.
Corelli.
Present.
Doss. Morozov. Lim. Joliker.
Present.
Kringle. Sherman. Smith.
Present.
Trejo Hernandez.
Present.
Muratov.
Present.
Connolly. Gumarov.
Present.
Hamid.
Present.
Kaufman.
Present.
Rudy.
Present.
Lusht.
Present.
Gaudio. Metellus.
Present.
Rose. Rickett.
Present.
Chauhan.
Present.
Escobar. Naguib.
Present.
Wanjin. Johnson.
Present.
Patel. Weiderberg.
Present.
Green.
Present.
Present.
Hendry. Rubin.
Present.
Borges.
Here.
Alcuda.
Present.
Benesh. Condoloro.
Present.
Colazo.
Present.
Rodriguez.
Present.
Benwick.
Present.
Grosso.
Present.
Janadra. Holman.
Present.
Brenda.
Present.
Richmond.
Present.
Shen.
Present.
Varilla.
Present.
Vasquez.
Present.
Lipner. Morset.
Present.
37 out of 51 quorums verified.
All right, approval of the minutes. Everyone go ahead, take a look at last meeting's minutes. And is there a motion to approve last meeting's minutes? Any objections? Seeing none, last meeting's minutes are approved. Approval of the agenda. Everyone go ahead, take a look at this meeting's agenda. And is there a motion to approve this meeting's agenda? Any objections? Seeing none, this meeting's agenda is approved. Open forum. Is there anyone here wishing to speak in open forum? All right.
Testing again. Did that was work better? All right. What I have to say is very serious, very significant, and dare I say it, very controversial. Great job. You're all doing fantastic. I just got back from Tallahassee for the Great American Realtor Days. That is a lobbying convention for Florida realtors. And I had the opportunity to lobby among all the other bills that we were lobbying for Senate Bill 62 and House Bill 143. This is the Resilient Buildings Act. It is an act that will grant homeowners and property owners tax credits based on the LEED certification or how resilient their buildings are. And on top of that, it creates a council for determining the best building practices moving forward and expanding emphasis on sustainable building. One of the things that I noticed about that council when it was first introduced was that a very crucial player was left off of it. UCF did not have representation on this council. Devastating, I know. I was shocked to my core. But I reached out to your government affairs coordinator, Gabriela Polera, and with her, as well as I'd imagine the government affairs and policy committee, and an amendment was introduced to the bill in the Senate by the original sponsor of the bill to include UCF on that council that would be determined. So after everything else, and I'm sure there are plenty of people that come up all the time in forum to talk about what's going wrong, I just want to give an opportunity to hear what's going right. You guys are doing great in terms of advocacy, and I'm so proud to be a Knight. Thank you.
All right, anyone else for open forum? All right, come on up.
There you go. Now it's on. All right. So I also have good news. I had a couple people do a survey of just random students talking about, the performance of student government, approval ratings of certain individuals that are running in the election and the election matchup. But I'm not here to talk about the election matchup or any of those favorables. But I am here to say that student government, it has a 37.5% approval rating. Neutral is 40.2%, and disapprove is 19.2. So you guys are net positive 18 points. And Bryce is finishing at +9 with 21% approved, 62% neutral, and disapprove is 13%. So that's pretty much all I have to say. So you guys finished off strong.
All right, anyone else wishing to speak in open forum? All right, seeing none. Oh, I'm so sorry. Okay, yeah, come on up.
I just want to introduce myself. I'm Brandon Garrett, run for president. Not here to waste time. Wanted to sit in on a meeting, so I met some of you guys. Hope to see a good session. That's it.
Anyone else wishing to speak in open forum? All right, seeing none. Announcements from the student body president, President Lister.
All right. Good evening, Senate. I hope you all had a fantastic week so far. First off, thank you to Academic Affairs Coordinator Lolly Otis for hosting the first SG study session, which was in the Technology Commons on Tuesday. On Tuesday, we also hosted our annual Black and Gold Challenge with ELC. So myself, Vice President Brawley, and Deputy Chief of Staff Cabrera will be working to host the selected event, along with the ELCers who won soon, and we'll share details about that when we are closer to the event. Yesterday as well, Academic Affairs Coordinator Lolly Otis had a busy week as she hosted the Academic Exploration Showcase in the Cape Florida Ballroom. And also yesterday, myself and Vice President Brawley helped to unload over 1,000 cans and other goods that are needed to the Knights Pantry through our Pay for Provisions event with Parking and Transportation Services. We're happy with the results of this event, and we hope it continues on a more often basis in the future. Also, I want to speak on a current internal bill that's on the agenda tonight. So Internal Bill 5638, which is on the agenda tonight, while we appreciate the intention to have the Government Affairs Coordinator or Day at the Capitol Coordinator to be involved in discussion at GAP meetings regarding Day at the Capitol, we believe this bill is unnecessary because the Government Affairs Coordinator or the Day at the Capitol Coordinator can already attend public meetings and participate in debates with the committee's permission. For example, the Attorney General can attend and speak at LJR meetings with the committee's approval, yet there's no bill making them a member of LJR. And also, since LJR passed this bill unfavorably, we respectfully oppose it and encourage you to vote against Internal Bill 5638. Lastly, I hereby appoint Noak David to Associate Justice Seat 2. And then I will be giving Vice President Brawley a report, but thank you and have a great weekend.
Any questions? Any questions regarding that report? Delec Lazo.
In regards to the selection of the new potential justice, did you sit in those interviews or a designee of yours sit in those interviews?
I did not sit in on all the interviews, but I did personally interview Noak myself.
Any further questions? All right, seeing none, announcements from the Vice President given by President Lister.
Okay. Brawley says, good evening, Senate. This week, I was able to get final approval on the Interfaith Council bylaws, and we will be scheduling meetings next week to get in front of student orgs. I was able to get some feedback from the president regarding initiatives that was shared with Senator Green and Varela. I met with Forever Knights and the alumni today to plan Charging Forward Forever. And the alumni showcase, additionally Pay with Provisions, finished up, and we were able to donate over 1,000 items of food to the Knights Pantry. Have a great evening.
Any questions? All right, seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Comptroller's report, Comptroller Simillo.
Hello, everybody. So the K9 event is coming up. It is going to be March 13th from 3 to 4 on Memory Mall. So please come out and watch the dogs at work. It's just going to be a few K9s that are out. And then also STEP will be coming out, which is an organization on campus that works with service dogs. So we'll have a few puppies out. And we're also inviting the therapy dogs. So you can also pet them and kind of hang out. But SG will be tabling. So if any of y'all want to come and help, you're more than welcome to. Just shoot me a text on Teams. And then also, finance office is going to be meeting tomorrow at 12 in person and online. So if you're in the committee, please try to join either online or in person in the office. And then I also went to sports club council meeting and introduced myself to the nominated presidents that are running for the next fiscal year, as I am a student rep for them, and have been trying to kind of bridge the gap that has been growing within sports club council and student government. So just making them familiar with student government. I also highly encourage them all to run or at least apply for student government as well, because it's a great opportunity to be involved in. And then with the end of the term coming up, I am going to be sending out something to all the branch heads with their budget thus far and letting them know how much they have left within their budget, within operations, OPS, and see what other initiatives they have so that we can kind of get the ball rolling. And then FAO at the moment has $768.51 with a reversion of 2.77%. And CRT has a balance of negative $2,972.69 and a reversion of 3.18%.
Any questions? Varela.
Yeah, can I actually ask a question about retaining to like her past experiences in CRT, just because the CRT character is currently here.
Sure.
Yeah, so I just thought you'd be a good person to ask about this since you're already here. During the previous sessions, do you know if CRT had a special timeline to the allocation process for international students / international travel for international students?
So normally whenever an international student comes in, or if an international student is part of an RSO, it is about 5 extra business days to process any allocation that they're asking for, because they do also have to go through UCF Global. Does that answer your question? Okay.
Any further questions? All right, seeing none, thank you. All right, Attorney General's report given by President Lister.
Okay, I'm back. 1 second, I just need to. Okay, John said, "Good evening, Senate. We still have received no word from Dr. Frame about 5622, 5623, and 5628. Myself and Vice President Brawley have sent her a reminder, but just so everyone is aware, if no signature is done within the 10 academic days, it is assumed that it will be assumed as the bill passes, and I will update the statutes accordingly. Hope you all have a great weekend."
Any questions? Benwick.
Kind of anyone who can answer this. How does that work for the veto that we saw last week?
The bill that I vetoed so you overrode the veto. So as far as I'm aware, it is now legislation.
I thought it had to go through Frame just so it signed.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, it does go to her after that. Yes.
Okay, so if she
yes.
doesn't sign off on it within 10 days, is it still passed as if we overturned it, or is it still in veto as you?
Are you asking if the 10 academic day starts from last Thursday, or from?
I'm trying to see, would that bill pass as if we overturned it if she doesn't sign it within 10
Yes.
days?
Yeah, it's
Thank you.
Yes.
Any further questions? All right, seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
Morozov.
President voting.
Senator Morozov, present and voting, so noted at 7:19 p.m. Cabinet forum not in the agenda, but I'm assuming none. Okay. Okay, announcements from the Chief Justice. Chief Justice Rivera.
Okay, hello Senate. I hope everyone's doing great this evening. A lot for me today, so just bear with me. This week I received an appeal regarding an election violation that was denied due to lack of merit and lack of standing. Parking appeals are starting to pick back up, and the precedent committee is working closely on those to help build up our archive and our precedents. Leadership also this week interviewed for the open associate justice role with many incredible candidates, and a special congratulations to Noak in the back. And we look forward to seeing his service here in student government. The Judicial Advertising and Marketing Committee new chair, Justice Nunez, is working to set up the committee and its goals for the closing of this term and laying the groundwork for next term. I'm also currently connecting with the UNF and USF Chief Justices for a summit with the judicial branches across the state of Florida. So working across the state to get that set up with them. And lastly, we received a request for judicial review on internal bill 5627. And last night, the Judicial Council voted 13-0 to approve the review request. We also received a request for an injunction on 5627, which was granted by 13-0. I will release the order of the Judicial Council and the summons to their respective parties as I leave the podium tonight. That's it for me. Thank you.
Any questions? Varela.
Does the Judicial Council accept and consider amicus briefs during judicial reviews?
I believe so. I think I have to look at the JRP just to make sure what that looks like, but I think that might be something we can do for this case.
Any further questions? All right, Lazo.
I was just wondering if your announcements could be put in the agenda.
Yeah, sorry. I had them on my notes because my iPad died. Sorry, or my computer died.
Any further questions? All right, seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, announcements from the Supervisor of Elections, Supervisor Brown.
I did not know why I turned off again. Last week, we held 2 violation hearings across 3 affidavits and 2 tickets, during which one of the tickets was deemed in violation of 2 statutes and has received a sanction. This week, the commission also held our candidate exposition. If you tabled at this event, please be sure to fill out the feedback form sent out by Alicia. Voting is next week. Please be sure to share the election and so that everyone knows that it's happening. We have a few fun things planned for the election tent this year, including some cotton candy for anyone who steps right up and votes. As I have said throughout this month, please submit an affidavit if you believe a candidate has broken any statutes. For individuals wondering about the website, unfortunately, OSI is running extremely behind, as recently one of their website designers quit, and they are currently prioritizing Eternal Nights. They are aware of the urgency of updating it, but there's only so much they can do. There's currently only one website designer. Please remember to keep election talk outside of the office and events now more than ever. Finally, remember to submit your recommendations for RSOs that could receive an impact award on Night Connect for Knights of the Round Table.
Any questions? Benwick.
Are we allowed to give a round of applause to the Election Commission for the excellent candidate expo this week?
Good one.
So how many violations or sanctions does a candidate have to get removed? I'm not sure how the sanctions and violations correlate together.
Sorry, I'm confused what you mean.
Like you said, they were in violation of 2,
Mhm.
but yet they received a sanction. So for a candidate to be terminated, is it a certain amount of sanctions or a certain amount of violations? How does that?
It's up to the discretion of the commission. So if the commission deems that a disqualification is necessary, they can do so. The commission during the hearing did not decide that.
Any further questions? Marito.
Does the violations and sanctions also apply to write-in candidates?
If a write-in candidate is voted in and approved, if there is an affidavit filed against them after they are elected, Brody can correct me if I'm wrong, but if a violation / affidavit is approved and seen for a write-in candidate after they've been elected, they can be basically disqualified and not receive their seat.
The short version is write-in candidates are also accountable to the rules. So yes.
Benesh.
Present and voting.
Senator Benesh, present and voting, so noted at 7:24 p.m. Any further questions for Supervisor Brown? All right, seeing none, thank you. All right. Announcements from the Activity and Service Fee Committee Chair, none. Announcements from the Scholarship Committee Chair, none. Caucus reports, APIA Caucus Chair Lim. Not here. Yes, Shawan.
She says, "Hi everyone. Had a meeting last Monday with MSC and APAC to discuss preparation plans for APIA Market Day, which will be April 4th on the Student Union patio. Thanks everyone."
All right, any questions? All right, seeing none, Black Caucus Chair Metellus.
Hi everyone. I hope you all had a great week so far. Black Caucus met last week where we recapped on the Black Business Showcase and talked about our final updates on the Juneteenth initiative. I'd like to announce that the student government side of making Juneteenth a UCF holiday is all wrapped up, and now due to our advocacy, the provost and UCF faculty will discuss how they want to proceed with this initiative at their next meeting. Congrats again to Chair Johnson for her success in this initiative. Black Caucus is now bi-weekly, and we will not be meeting tomorrow. Our next meeting will be in the conference room on Friday, March 14th at 11 a.m. That's all from me. Thanks, guys.
All right, any questions? Seeing none, Disability Caucus Chair Johnson.
Hi guys. So the caucus met last week to discuss supporting the proclamation against the Texas v. Becerra case. We will meet again next Friday at noon. Also, special congratulations to Provost Johnson on his retirement. He absolutely deserves it. And that's all from me.
Any questions? All right, seeing none, Latin Hispanic Caucus Chair Escobar, Vice Chair Vasquez.
Hi, everyone. So we've decided to change our caucus time to Wednesdays at 2 p.m. starting next week. There's also the salsa night happening tomorrow afternoon. So if you guys are interested, please fill out the RSVP if you haven't already. Bobby put a link in the general channel in the Teams, and that's pretty much it. Also, shout out Bobby. He's in Tallahassee right now.
Any questions? All right, seeing none. LGBTQ plus caucus Chair Benesh.
Hi, everybody. We're working on making Queer Market Day for Celebrate Diversity Month in April, and our next meeting is on Tuesday at 9 a.m. That's all from me.
Any questions? All right, seeing none, Military and Veterans Caucus Chair Collazo.
Hi, everyone. So today I attended the Salute to Women's Veterans ceremony with Senator Rodriguez. Senator Rodriguez presented Proclamation 5635 at the event. Proclamation 5635 was the proclamation recognizing Salute to Women Veterans today. It was a great networking opportunity for us. We met the e-board of women, the Women's Veterans Association, and we met Miss Veteran America. Miss Veteran America is a nationwide competition for women veterans. The winner travels nationally to advocate on behalf of 55,000 homeless women veterans. The current title holder is a UCF alumni and Air Force veteran, Cassandra Guzman, and we did take photos with her, and they're coming soon.
Any questions? All right, seeing none, Women's Caucus Chair Lazo.
Okay, so we have a lot of events and a lot of business coming from us. March 27th from 12 to 4, we'll have our Women's Business Showcase, and that vendor sign-up link is already up on the SG Instagram. So if you think anybody will want to vend or want to sell, please send that link to them. Hold on, my thing just disappeared. Never mind. March 28th from 6 to 8:30 p.m. will be the Sexual Health and Wellness Bingo, and that's going to be here in the Student Union. More information about that to come, but right now it's mostly just a partnership with LGBTQ Caucus, Black Caucus, and Hearts for the Homeless, so it's going to be a pretty big event. Thank you to everyone so far who's helped out on planning it and, figuring it out. And then lastly, this isn't a Women's Caucus event per se, but I did want to shout it out. Senator Rudy is hosting an amazing event next week for Women in STEM on Tuesday the 11th from 11:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. or 2 p.m.? So 1 p.m. In the Engineering 2 atrium, so make sure to stop by. And that's it from me.
Any questions? All right, seeing none, Arab Ad Hoc Caucus Chair Alcuda.
Hello, Senate. This week, we mainly reviewed and sponsored our proclamation recognizing the month of Ramadan and student fasting accommodations, which is being remanded tonight. More to come. Additionally, I wanted to share a great event opportunity to to you all, shared with me by the wonderful Assistant Director and Special Advisor for the Middle East and North Africa and UCF Global, Dr. Mervet Al-Jurdi, which will be a discussion on the evolving role of foreign aid. So for more information and to RSVP, which is required, please use the following link. And if you want the flyer, just let me know and I can send it to you. That's it for me.
Any questions? All right, seeing none. Sustainability Ad Hoc Caucus, none. Intercampus and Transfer Ad Hoc Caucus, Chair Varela.
Sorry, hey y'all. Just want to remind you all that we have the Student Early Exploration Showcase tomorrow from 12:30 to 1:30 outside the Grand Pecos Ballroom. So come by and say hi if you have time. I want to give a big thank you to Vice President Browley for discussing issues pertaining to Lake Nona campus with President Cartwright and for his continuing dedication to bettering that campus. He's been a big help, and I'm really happy to see that he's being invested in those students. I also want to let you all know that I had a meeting with presidential candidate Brandon Garrett this week to talk about the work that ICTC does for the auxiliary campuses, as well as work I believe still needs to be done.
Any questions? All right, seeing none. Announcements from the Senate President. Okay. Hey everyone, kind of same thing from me. At this point, I'm kind of just gearing up for the end of the session. I think including this meeting, we have 6 meetings left. So a little less than 2 months. But yeah, a really quick show of hands. Who is going to be here next week? Okay, let me count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. Okay, so we'll have quorum. Okay. So yeah. Okay, just making sure that we can meet quorum for Senate next week. But yeah, okay. So same thing as last week. Shadowing, please feel free to shadow me if you are interested in my position or really any leadership position. We are doing an open house next week for next Senate exec. I'll let Pro Temp Morissette speak more on that. But yeah, we will be planning that within the next week or so. So be on the lookout for that. And that's just kind of going to be more of like an open forum type place for you guys to learn about our positions more in general instead of going straight to the person. If there are those of you who know you might want to run for leadership but don't exactly know what, have a couple in mind or something like that. So yeah, that's the plan. For the transition binder guide, this is going to be for probably leadership and caucus chairs. So feel free to use this as a guide, but save and copy, don't type directly on it. I don't really know how to like disable editing. I could probably figure it out, but I haven't. But yeah, so just save a copy or copy and paste or whatever. Some good tips for those here. Let me, since we have like caucus leadership in here, I'll just like quickly run through. Yeah, I would start out with like a cutesy little note to whoever your successor is going to be. That's what my predecessor did for me. And it's just kind of like a nice little like warm opening. First thing to do, I think this one's really important. The first thing you would do once confirmed or once confirmed elected, what worked, what didn't work, things you do the same, things you do differently, email templates, key contacts that might be useful for the caucus chairs, for those of you who are doing like the outreach type event type things like that, key contacts, or, oh, this is another good thing. I guess that could fall into like how to reserve like a student union room, student union patio, atrium, things like that. Because we go through the website like all the other RSOs, we don't like contact certain people, things like that. But yeah, so let me know if you guys need any help with that or any questions. But yeah, caucus chairs, start looking at transition binder stuff. And here's just a guide to help you out. But please feel free to come talk to me if you need help with how to do a transition binder. But yeah, I think I've had this talk with leadership, but I actually am realizing now I haven't had it with caucus chairs. Yeah, definitely be looking at writing stuff down, organizing your thoughts, and how you are going to present that to whoever has your position next. So yeah, there's that. Okay, and then we have our passing. Oh, I forgot to do the little notes. Okay, well, I'll quickly run through. Okay, So we have the end of the year banquet for all of student government is called Passing of the Gavel. And so these are awards that are given to a select few senators. These are nominations, but ultimately Pro Temp Morissette and I will be choosing from the nominations. So yeah, this is just a way for you guys to give your input. I meant to go in and kind of add a little bit more of an explanation, and I didn't get the chance to do that. But yeah, Committee Chair of the Year award, pretty straightforward. Yeah, okay. So I'll go in and add more of explanations because these are pretty broad. But yeah, if you've anyone off the top of your head, you see the name and you know what you want to who you want to nominate, feel free to go ahead and fill this out. But I will be working on tonight. I'll be working on getting more of an overall a little bit more specific version of all of this. But yeah, so there's that. And then, as always, the anonymous Dropbox. Read.
I was just wondering if we had a set date for passing of the gavel yet.
It's early April. It's the first or second week of April. I forget the actual date. Varela.
For the passing gavel award thing, will you be deciding as who gets the award just pure majority vote, or will it kind of be also your discretion based off what you see?
So yeah, we're kind of going off of just kind of a nomination system. So you guys are going to nominate, and then just depending on how it looks, I'm assuming if it's an overwhelming majority that's given to us in the forms, then we'll go. I don't know. I don't want to say exactly what. We're kind of just gonna go with it. Take the nominations and then have that help us. But I also think it's also meaningful to have the top two leadership decide those as well. So yeah, we'll kind of up in the air. But yeah, Benwick.
As soon as you guys know the banquet or gavel date, whatever it's called, can you guys just post it?
Yes, we'll do. Muratov.
Can you repeat about the nominations part? I didn't hear you.
Yeah, so basically these are the awards that will be given out to select senators. I will go in and I will add a little bit more specific detail about the exact awards because I do understand they're very broad. So be on the lookout for that. There'll either be maybe a Teams message tomorrow, and then I'll also add it to this. But if you have anything that jumps to mind and you know exactly what you want to do, go ahead, fill it out. But I will be adding more specific detail. More set.
Point of information. Passing of the gavel, I believe we're all invited. So exec sends out the invitations and the RSVP. So all the dates, information, location, all that will be in there. I just don't think they sent the invitations out yet.
Yeah, they haven't. I know there's a set date. I just don't know it yet. Or no, I do know it, but I forgot it. But it's early April. Any further questions? All right, seeing none. Internal Legislative Assistant Report, Aile Okuda.
Hello again, Senate. Last week, SLC had a mock Senate meeting. They all did a wonderful job making motions and asking questions, so I'm extremely proud of them. This upcoming week, SLC members will be presenting their legislation projects. All members were assigned a council project to draft their own legislation, so I'm extremely excited to also be hearing all of their great ideas this week. If you are a mentor, I strongly urge you to check in with your mentee and how their legislation is going. I also encourage everyone to attend SLC this Monday, March 10th at 4 p.m. in the Charge On Chamber if you're interested in sitting in on legislation project presentations. And many of these ideas, if those members who will go on to be senators may continue on into next session. So it will be really interesting. Thank you.
Any questions? All right, seeing none. External Legislative Assistant Report, ELA Richmond.
So just kind of an update on dean meetings. A lot have occurred, but there's two who have recently canceled, COBA and engineering, working on rescheduling those, and then also just waiting on a response from CCIE. And then other than that, all the ones have been scheduled, and I believe all but 3 have happened that are scheduled. So just be on the lookout if yours hasn't happened yet.
Any questions? All right, seeing none. Senate President Pro Tempore Report, Pro Temp Morissette.
Hello, everyone. So more on the open house that Senate President Pullman spoke about a little bit. It will be next week. At the same time, Senate Exec usually happens at 6 p.m. in the Charge-On Chamber. The open house is kind of just to serve as a space for all of us as senators, as well as any other SG agents that would like to attend, to kind of speak about what the legislative branch has looked like this session, what it should look like next session, and kind of confirming a lot of definitions as well as sentiments across the body, because I think it's really important that we're all on the same page before moving forward. So a lot of you guys are also going up for re-election, as well as kind of having a collaborative whiteboard session with Canva to make sure all of our ideas are on the same page and we can include it, me and Senate President Pullman, in our transition binders for next year's leadership as well. And then kind of anything else that you guys would like to discuss in that session, since it's kind of informal, we'll also discuss. And then next, Black and Gold Days with the High School Initiative has been going well. The first one happened at Oak Ridge this Tuesday, and the next one will happen tomorrow at Evans High School. So excited for that. I've also been working with Vila Colazo about checking for any inconsistencies within statutes about the Pro Temp's office and all those positions and their responsibilities. And I hereby appoint Michael Shen to Sergeant at Arms.
Any questions? All right, seeing none. Deputy Pro Tempore of Legislative Affairs report, Dela Colazo.
Hi, everyone. So a lot of legislation. If you scroll down, a lot of internal legislation. As you can see, majority of it's kind of like split and split. So internal bills and proclamations, and then we have a couple resolutions. My biggest suggestion is review the bills before you come to Senate. Also, take a look at the vote counts. It can tell you like an automatic kind of, oh, okay, so there's an overwhelming majority here. We don't need to sit here and debate it for another hour, right? Or if it's already past second reading with a unanimous consent, then of course, let's just move on with the agenda. Additionally, don't stop sending internal legislation. I love, reading it and reviewing it and revising it. I like everyone that's coming up to me and asking for my advice. But yeah, if you guys need any help or any advisement to your internal bills, please feel free to reach out.
Any questions? All right, seeing none. Deputy Pro Tempore of Senate Relations report, Deeser Lazo.
Hello, not a lot for me today. My senators that are going to the challenge course tomorrow, please meet in front of the Barbara Ying Center. That's like right next to, like right behind the RWC and like right next to where all the intramural fields are. Meet there at 1:45 p.m. as that's where the RWC would like us to meet. I'm going to be sending out an announcement in the teams later about like what and what not to bring. But the two things that I thought were really important, because I'm probably going to forget this one, is the no jewelry and bringing water. I'm going to try and get some water bottles out, but please, please, please bring water. And then the second thing is I'm not going to be here for next week's meeting. I'm going to be teaching abroad, but don't hesitate to reach out for any like questions or ideas. If you're in the like meeting, you're like, hey, I'm a little bit confused about this. I'm still going to have like Wi-Fi and WhatsApp. So just like text me and I'm going to be getting them. That's it for me.
Any questions? Dinesh.
By jewelry, you just mean like the dangly jewelry or?
Any jewelry, any nose ring, any piercing. If you can't like take it off, like you just got a piercing done, you can't like remove it. They're gonna give you like tape. But anything that you can remove, it's like a safety issue. Like they don't want you to like hit yourself and then like or like have a piercing ripped out. That's why they do that. It's a liability issue.
Corelli.
If we filled out the Google form, are we guaranteed to go, or was there like a selection process?
Nope, you're guaranteed to go. I'm just gonna be confirming that like with the little Teams messages I'm gonna send out. If you have any questions though, like about going, don't be afraid to like reach out.
Smith.
Where's the Barbara Ying Center near? Perfect. I'm gonna be sending a little picture because they sent me a picture with like rounded out. But if you've ever gone to the RWC back by like Academic Village, there's a little like walkway behind it. It's gonna be right next to it. It's also across from Garage B. I'm gonna be there, so if you're like confused, don't be afraid to call me on Teams. And I'll like go grab you.
Colazo.
It's not really a question. I just forgot to mention that I also won't be present next meeting. So I will be in DC. So if you submit legislation on Wednesday, it has to be submitted to the Pro Tempore because I won't be here.
Lorella.
Can I make a point of clarification like the prohibited jewelry stuff?
Mhm.
Yeah, so no jewelry. Also, no headbands with knots, no hats, no hoods, please. Anything that can like, with a knot hit your head and give you a concussion.
Any questions? Murtaugh.
Is there still time to sign up
I believe you already signed up. I can double check, but I'm 90% sure I saw you.
I sign up.
Yeah.
Just a general question.
Yeah, you could still sign up. I can't really take more than 2 people right now. That's all the spots that we have left. And we're also trying to figure that out with RWC. So if 2 people want to go, sure. If 3 people want to go, duke it out.
Any further questions? All right, seeing none. Old business, none. Fiscal committee caucus time, none. Fiscal committee reports, CRT committee, Vice Chair Shen.
Hey guys, yeah, Adam's not here this weekend. He's pretty busy right now. CRT didn't meet this week. We will convene at some point in the future to discuss the future and assess any reversions. If you have any students reach out to you about CRT, there's been a lot. I know I've been in there, fortunately, when they come to the office. Feel free to send my contact information or Adam's. Send it contact information to clarify to them so they can reach out to us and we can answer any questions they have.
All right, FAO committee chair, none. Sorry. Okay, ORS committee, Vice Chair Varela.
Hey, y'all, we just did 2 post-funding reviews, which resulted in 2 new sanctions, and we completed 3 VPFs.
Any questions? All right, seeing none. Fiscal legislation, none. Internal committee caucus time, none. Internal committee reports, ENA committee, Vice Chair Banesh.
Hi guys. Sorry, I got a little distracted. What did we do? On Wednesday, we reviewed potential bills for Senate apportionment and an update to Title VI. That's all.
Any questions? All right, seeing none. GAP committee chair Vasquez.
Hi, everyone. So today we reviewed the survey data. We agreed to close it, and I'm proud to say we got over 500 submissions. We took the time to review the data in detail and take it into consideration when building our advocacy agenda, and we've decided to include education, civil liberties, and healthcare in our agenda this year, each having important bills that have been filed and topics that are being addressed. So please let me know if you have any questions, comments, or concerns.
Any questions? Varela.
This is a question about open forum we heard today. Were you in any way notified of student government's involvement in proposing an amendment to Senate Bill 62?
I was not.
Any further questions? All right, seeing none. LJR committee chair Courts.
Hi, Senate. First and foremost, sorry. Thank you everyone who submitted legislation. I echo Dila Colazo when I say that it's nice to have so many people involved. Yesterday in LJR, we saw 2 internal bills, 2 resolutions, and 3 absence requests. Internal bills 5637 and 38. 37 passed 6-0 to 1, and then 38 did not pass with a vote count of 1 to 5 to 1. Resolutions 5616 and 5617 both passed with vote counts of 6-0 to 1, and then for absences, Borjas and Lazo approved 6-0 to 1, and then Alcuda not approved with a vote count of 0 to 5 to 2. We will be seeing our committee's Title III updates and revisions bill tonight on second reading, and our 2 Title IX bills are being remanded to LJR tonight. We looked at Titles 10, 11, and 12 in committee yesterday, but saw nothing that needed to be changed except for maybe a few formatting errors, which needs no bill because I can just submit it to John.
Any further questions? All right, seeing none. SBA committee chair Hamid.
Hi, everyone. I hope you're all doing great. So this week in SBA, we saw proclamations 5637 and 5638, both of which passed on first reading. We're going to be tabling next week if anyone would like to join, as long as we have a tablecloth. Looking at one specific person who stole it. But anyway, if anyone would like to join, I'd love to have you guys there. Also, the Women in STEM event being held by Senator Rudy is next week, Tuesday the 11th from 11:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. in the engineering atrium. If you don't know what building that is, just look at the building that says engineering on it. It's that one. Or if you want to walk with all of us, the event happens right after SBA. If anyone needs any assistance, but please stop by if you're interested in helping. I have a when to meet. We would appreciate all the help. Also, please let me know if you have any help. If you need any help with initiatives or proclamations or resolutions, I love seeing them. They're so fun, especially when I see first-time writers.
Any questions? All right, seeing none. Confirmations, Michael Shen for Sergeant at Arms. Is there a motion for a 5-10-10? Any objections? All right, seeing none.
Hello, Senate. I hope we're doing well tonight. We are reaching the end of the 56th session. I say this with both hope for the future and sadness at the era we are leaving. This, as I'm sure many of you know, was my first and hopefully not last term as a senator. I've grown to love this body for the people who are in it and for what you stand for ultimately, the students of UCF. I believe that we as a body have done an amazing job this session. I really, truly mean that. We've got a lot of good work done, and I think I don't know, I think we've done a great job. But like anything, there really is room for improvement. It has been clear to me throughout my term here that a sergeant of arms is absolutely needed. Most of us are in our early 20s. I get it. We are young, we are passionate, and we are filled with vigor for what we believe in. It's not my place or my goal to stunt this vigor, but to enforce the reality that every word we say on this floor is broadcasted live to anyone that wants to watch, is sometimes listened to by numerous UCF faculty members, often observed by graduate students who are much older than us, and reported on by the student news known as The Charge. We make big, expansive decisions, and these decisions must be delivered in a professional, effective, and respectful way. Unfortunately, our role on this campus is frequently questioned. I believe one step to improving our image is to run a tighter, decorum-focused ship, which will also make meetings more efficient. It is my goal to strictly enforce decorum as in written and Senate Rule 3. Senators must raise their hand when they speak. We can't keep begging our speaker to let us speak, as we've seen many times during the session. We must patiently wait for her to call on us or whoever that may be in the future. While not as noticeable of an issue, we also must use the proper titles for those who we are addressing. This is crucial to separating our friendships with our fellow senators from our professional relationship with them on the floor. It is stated in Senate Rule 3 that we must avoid personal feelings or issues during debate. We have to do this, guys. Furthermore, I believe we are lacking a critical lack of respect for our fellow senators. It's been said hundreds of times, but eye rolls, laughs, and outbursts of speech, it's just not needed. As Sergeant of Arms, I will ensure that we respect each other and that the image we send to our fellow students and faculty of UCF is one of what we are: professional young adults looking to support our fellow students.
All right, we're now line for questioning. You guys have 10 minutes. Okay, I'll start. Hamid, Gumrov, and then Al-Quda.
You kind of went into this in your speech already, but what is considered decorum level?
Do you want the exact Black's Law definition of decorum?
And also like what you would decorum if you were put into this position.
Well, I will say I cannot remember the exact definition right now. I apologize for that. But what I would look out for is really just, like, as I stated in my speech, people raising their hand when needed. I would really like to hone in on just keeping quiet when needs to be quiet. Simple things like it's been said hundreds of times, like when we pack up, and then just really watching out for like that speech that edges on the line of just going too far. Like even sometimes when we have RSOs in here, just certain language used towards them, things said like, oh, like maybe this is not that useful, just very specific language. But I wouldn't go into like target tone as we discussed before, but really just making sure that things are going smoothly and professionally.
Yeah, so I'm actually going to touch on that subject. So we've had a lot of trouble with the whole issue around like being able to decorum tone. With majority of the problems being a tone issue, how do you think that you would be able to fix that, or what would be your bar of decoring something?
I really think that is a good balance, because obviously I'm not going to, if I'm appointed, I'm not going to obviously like target a specific sort of tone. It's just really looking for when that edges on. Some people just speak a certain way. Unfortunately, it's like I'm not throwing him out there. I'm just saying, like let's say Senator Varela speaks very passionately. I don't find him rude ever. That's just the way he speaks. But it's really just, I would be looking at more so word choice rather than specific tone, because to me that's more important and telling of what is truly a thing that needs to be decorumed than just somebody simply speaking in a way that may sound a little intense.
So my question is, what do you believe makes you the most or best qualified candidate for Sergeant at Arms?
For me, I've really just, I'm just a big person that's really just about keeping things professional, keeping things smooth and effective. I'm a little bit of a boring person. I just like things to be serious. And I think, for a role such as this, that I can serve it very well by just maintaining that we move efficiently, smoothly, and professionally.
Borges?
Two, if I may?
You may.
Okay, so the first one is regarding decorum of non-senators. How do you plan on decoruming or enforcing decorum on non-senators, just like we had how the branches were quite loud while leaving tonight?
If you could just clarify with me, when you say non-senators, do you mean like we have like guests from the executive or judicial, or do you mean like people in open forum?
So mostly people who are just non-senators, but also student government agents. So like, for example, how we had exec and judicial, and while they were leaving, it was quite loud and we couldn't hear our speaker.
Really just toning in on it, not taking, just treating it on obviously a case by case basis, but not seeing it as any differently than just, decoruming my fellow senator. Obviously we're all in the same chamber right here. I would apply really the same rules. I wouldn't, just give an excuse that they're a part of the student government, but, I completely understand what you mean. Stuff like that is a really great example. I think, we think Sergeant of Arms, like, oh, they're going to stop people from saying this or that. But it's really just simple things like that. Like you mentioned, like I said, people packing up, and like you said, all of them leaving. It was super hard to hear Allison, but I just treating them the exact same as I would my fellow senator.
And my second question. So this one regards essentially something that might not necessarily be your duties. It's something that kind of relates to what the speaker and pro tem have to do up there, is ensuring that senators are within their time limits. Do you intend on timing senators to make sure that we're actually following those limits, or?
Absolutely, yes. That's another thing. I think that's kind of like driven, not being super efficient is people going over their time limits. Obviously, it's understandable. It's going to happen. But yes, 100%. Obviously, if somebody has one more word to say, I'm not going to not let them say that. But I would really like to keep to those strict time limits.
Sherman, Lim, Jolliker.
Present voting.
Sherman, present and voting, so noted at 7:57 p.m. Lim.
Present and voting.
Senator Lim, present and voting, so noted at 7:57 p.m. Jolliker.
When it comes to enforcing decorum, you say it's largely based on the tone that's being presented, but you also mentioned the words that we're using. If you could not necessarily give a specific example of some words, but I more so have a question of, does this extend for you to slang terminology or unprofessional verbiage that might be used by senators just by virtue of them being younger, maybe not speaking very professionally often? Does it extend that far for you, or where do you sort of cut that off?
So yeah, just to clarify, for me, it really is, tone is a big thing, but like I said, some people really do just speak a certain way, and it may be intense, and that's just the way they speak. For me, it really is going to be that word choice. But to answer your question, that's a really great question. I would really like to take a balanced approach to that. Obviously, like I said in my speech, we all are young. I'm not going to act like, I'm not a 20-year-old. I use slang terminology. It happens, but it's really, for me, that would be on a case-by-case basis. Obviously, we're ending up the night, that's fine. But if we're here, if we're saying slang terminology or just things that's not very professional, and we have a guest here from UCF faculty, if we're addressing a faculty member, I remember the individual from the College of, let's just say the individual from the College of Arts and Humanities, when he was discussing, I apologize, you weren't here for that, but my other senators know what I'm talking about. Let's just say somebody like him was here presenting something. I would enforce kind of that if somebody was speaking in a way that seemed a little bit unprofessional to address an adult. And then I would also, what you would probably see more, because we don't always have those guests that often, is I would enforce that when it comes to RSOs, because a lot of the RSOs, they're filled with graduate students,
and they're taking time out of their day to come here. They go through CRT, they come here, they, sometimes they're here for first, second, and third reading. And I think they deserve a lot of respect. I think, we need to make sure we're listening to them. And I think we need to make sure we're carefully choosing our words with them. We may not necessarily agree or want them to get funding to say, but we need to treat them with an air of respectability because they came here.
All right, we have about 2.5 minutes remaining. Muratov, Lazo, Alcuda.
Right. In your speech, you heavily emphasize on rather wording than a tone or any other issue, and what you're looking as a decorum. And well, mainly logical thing that comes to my mind is how would you maintain, or at least try to maintain, a neutrality and unbiasedness in choosing which wording is bad and which wording is against decorum, which isn't.
Well, I think that's a little bit of a difficult question to answer. I think really the wording I'm speaking about, it really kind of speaks for itself. It's when it occurs, it will occur, if that makes any sense. I'm really talking about like wording where it's just, completely unnecessary. It's bringing up, like, let's say, like, it's bringing up events that happened outside of the Senate. It's just not proper language to use, but I understand what you're saying, but like, it's really just a case by case basis of that language. It will be clear. I'm not going to, I'm not going to say, oh, that totally bad. It's going to be things that are clear to me, to you, that just should not be said.
Okay, we have 1 minute remaining in questioning. Who did I say next? Lazo.
A motion to extend questioning by 3 minutes.
There's been a motion to extend questioning by 3 minutes. Are there any objections?
I object.
Do you withdraw?
No, simply because I do have important statutorial questions. So no, I do not withdraw.
Okay. You have 2 minutes.
Guys, I'm sorry. We've been asking for a sergeant at arms for literally the last month. I feel like we've asked a bunch of the same questions with no new questions. I'm sorry that you have new questions, but I think we have our minds made up, and I think it's time that we debate and vote.
Okay, go ahead.
I think there's also, I understand that, and I know that we have a lot of business to get through today. However, the sergeant at arms is an important position because they are going to be maintaining our decorum, which, as we said, is a highly topical debate for this seat. So I think we have to be asking statutory questions as well as, procedural questions. And I think seeing how I and Varela are people who really want to see a good sergeant at arms, and I've had the experience of a sergeant at arms before, I think asking questions is a good thing just so we can get an extra, layer into what the candidate wants for this position.
All right, we're in a 5-minute debate period. Anyone wishing to speak in debate? All right. Banesh, Varela, Collazo.
For once, I'm actually going to agree with the motion to extend time. Like, if I feel like, like everybody's been saying, we do need a sergeant of arms. And if there's a statutorial question that needs to be asked, I'm all down for it. So I'm with Lazo on this one.
Varela.
Yeah, fully agree with that. I think that, sergeant at arms is a pretty important position. I want to make sure I have full trust in the senator that's been nominated for it, because he is the one that would be enforcing decorum, which is something that we've all recognized as important. So yeah, I would definitely be voting against the objection.
Collazo.
So I'll be voting for the motion. I too also have a question that I would like to ask, even if we have time. I completely understand the necessity that we want a sergeant at arms. We've been asking for a sergeant at arms for the longest time. In my personal opinion, they should have been appointed at the beginning of the session. But regardless of those things, I do think that we should extend time and ask the proper questions.
All right. Okay. Reed, Joliker, Gaudio.
I was going to ask to move to vote, but it appears that. Oh, well, move to vote. Move to vote.
All right. There's been a motion to vote. Are there any objections? All right. Seeing none, or non-voting procedures. The objection is Benwick. So a yes vote would mean we are not extending time. A no vote is Lazo. That means we are extending time. All right, with the vote count of 8 to 30 to 0, we have a 3-minute extension. You guys have about 4 minutes remaining in debate. In questioning. So Lazo, go ahead.
2, if I may.
You may, but be speedy or try to answer speedy too.
Yeah. So the first one, can you define or can you explain the order that we use in statutes for decoruming as a sergeant at arms?
Yeah, so tier 1 is going to be, tier 1 is going to be, essentially decoring. Tier 2 is going to be removing them from the chamber, and then tier 3 can lead to a censure. Am I correct?
You clarify in debate.
Okay. And then for my second question, I've heard a lot about what you plan to do for like verbal decorum. Can you explain what you want to do for more physical decorum, as you've had a lot of students kind of complain about the faces that people are making and the remarks that people are doing on the side and in the back? Can you elaborate a little bit more on how you're going to catch that? So that's been a big issue.
Yeah, completely understood. That is going to be really, that I did want to hone down on that too, because I mentioned in my speech, the eye rolls, I mentioned, laughing. That's really going to be kind of also a case by case basis. Something obvious like an eye roll, obviously that will be decorumed. Laughing, yes. Once again, things like specific faces, that's hard to gauge. Some people just have faces where they may always look mad. They may always look like they're on the verge of laughing, but very specific things like eye rolls or just like, let's just say scoffs. We all know the case where we're speaking and then the speech ends and then somebody goes, things like that.
Okay. I'm trying to do people. I said Al-Qaeda, didn't I? I did. Yeah. It was okay. 2 minutes remaining.
Yeah, so my question is another statutes question. I know it was kind of touched on earlier, but since it is specifically defined in statutes, I just wanted to give you the opportunity to answer again. Can you define decorum as it is outlined in statutes according to Black Law's Dictionary?
This is going to be hard. I did remember at some point. I'm sorry, I can't give you the exact verbiage.
Okay. Gaudio.
Oh boy, all kinds of questions. Under Robert's rules, what is the actual motion in which you bring attention to a rules violation?
I apologize, I cannot answer that.
Rickett.
Thank you, Senator Shen. So I have a question. So one of our responsibilities as senators is to have working knowledge of Robert's Rules of Orders. How would you address a person who is repeatedly breaking or who doesn't have working knowledge of Robert Rules of Orders? What would be kind of the punitive repercussions of that?
Well, so I'm guessing you're meaning when you're saying Robert's Rules, just someone who's constantly addressing the Senate body in the incorrect manner, not raising their hands, not addressing the. I kind of went over this a little bit in my speech, but this would all be addressed directly. You have to follow Robert's Rules, as we've all previously stated. It would be treated with sensitivity, obviously, because as we have new senators come in, we can't. Let's just give an example of when we appoint a new senator. We will have to treat that with a little bit of sensitivity.
All right, there's 20 seconds remaining. Courts or
how do you
we're gonna if you're asking a question, we're gonna have to take a motion.
Move to debate.
There's been a motion to move to debate. Are there any objections? All right, seeing none, we're now in debate. All right, Reed, Banesh, Gaudio.
Thank you. I believe that Senator Shen is an absolutely amazing person to fill this position. A dedicated, empowering, and passionate person is just who we need to fill this role. I believe he is the best person to do so. I think that we have seen the ways Senator Shen has acted on the Senate floor. He tackles issues with the utmost maturity and respect. I'll absolutely be voting yes to move Senator in the Sergeant of Arms position, and I encourage you all to do so.
Ganesh.
From one goat to another, I will also be voting Shen in this role, Sergeant at Arms. Michael Shen is probably one of the most polite and like just professional people I've ever met in college. He's very like straightforward, very sweet, just very, you know, he's somebody who doesn't play a lot of games. You know what I'm saying? So I have full faith in him in this role. I encourage you guys to all vote for him, the GOAT.
Gaudio.
I will be voting in negation of this, as Senator Shen is a phenomenal person. I love working with him. However, when your primary role as the Sergeant at Arms is to maintain decorum and proper proceedings within the meetings, you should at least know going into it that the motion that you would be making to enforce that is a point of order, and he could not name that motion, and so I do not have confidence he could effectively fill this role.
Okay, I'll do Hendry, Richmond, Lazo.
I'll be voting in favor of this candidate. I believe despite gaps in knowledge about certain procedures in Robert's rules, he'll be able to fill that in. As we're all going through a learning process during this, I believe it is in our duty to offer some grace towards that and, you know, allow him the same process that we've all had, you know, the ability to get adjusted to our new roles and positions. That being said, I do believe he'll do a great job and fulfill his duties ethically.
Richmond.
I feel like a broken record. I think student government in a position like this is where you learn to grow. You learn what decorum is. I know from a person aspect, Michael has actually motivated me to be a better senator. I think the past 2 meetings, my decorum has gotten a lot better because Michael has checked me multiple times. And although humbling, it's true. I think a lot of the times we get lost in the sauce, and Michael has been able to rein me back in. And if he can rein me back in, I'm confident he can rein the whole Senate in, because I'm probably the most difficult one. So I think that is a well-rounded reason to vote for Shen. If anything else, the knowledge will come, but really the leadership it takes may not come in another candidate that Michael already possesses. So I will be voting in favor.
Lazo.
I unfortunately will be voting in negation. While I understand that Senator Shen is a very polite person outside of the chamber, I do really want to see a little bit more of that just statutory understanding of what the Sergeant at Arms position is, just because it is so important to our business of the Senate. And I may have been spoiled by last year's Sergeant at Arms, but really having that person that knew exactly when, where, and how to do those point of orders was really important to facilitating our business and our speed of our meetings. And I really need that in these last couple of meetings because, oof. So unfortunately, while I can understand and I see the potential in it, I cannot in confidence vote in favor of this candidate until they have a little bit more knowledge and experience in the role. And I encourage you all to vote in negation so we get someone else more experienced.
All right, Metellus, Green, Courts.
I will be voting in favor of this candidate. Like the people before me that have said that they will be voting in favor. I also agree. I believe he's a very professional person. And although he hasn't been able to say things verbatim from the statutes, I do believe, especially since he's gone through the interview process and made it to this point, that he does understand the statutes and how to properly be a Sergeant of Arms. Sometimes knowing things word for word can just be hard, especially when this position was opened up very recently. So he probably has not had the time to just memorize it, but it's all available online. And now he has the time to really memorize it and really understand it. And he can even have it up while we are conducting Senate meetings so that he can be sure that he's decorum the right things, even if he doesn't know the stuff word for word. So I think he'll do great in this position, and I'll be voting in favor and encourage you guys to do the same.
Green.
I will also be voting in favor of this candidate. I want to concur with what Chair Metellus has been said in his previous statement. Furthermore, in regard to any leadership role, I would encourage you to look at Vice Chair Shen's experience in CRT. I believe it was ELA Richmond had mentioned how there's a large learning curve with any leadership position. And I think if you see how professionally and how he's led in that role in CRT with such integrity and grace, I think he has my full faith and confidence that he will exceed in this role as well. So I encourage you all to vote in favor.
Courts.
I will also be voting in favor, but I will say that I'm hoping that this candidate does hold himself to the same standard as he expects to hold us, simply because there were a few times during questioning where he also referred to senators by first name when the candidate did say that we needed to refer to by titles. But I will be voting in favor.
All right, Corelli, Joliker, Alcuda.
Yeah, I'll be voting in favor. There's nothing more that I can really add that wouldn't be repetitive. The statutes can be confusing. I get it. But Senator Shen's very smart, and I'll be voting in favor.
Joliker.
There really isn't much more to add. Although he may not know everything verbatim, it's very clear from my perspective coming in, wanting to bring more professionalism to this Senate. I can see that in Senator Shen as well, or Chairman Shen, Vice Chair Shen, pardon me. So I will also be voting in favor, and I really don't think there is any more to say, so motion to vote.
There's been a motion to vote. Are there any objections? All right, seeing none, we're now on voting procedures. All right, with a vote count of 30, I haven't read it. With a vote count of 34 to 5 to 0, Michael Shen is confirmed for Sergeant at Arms. Okay, yeah, we'll just get situated like next week really. But yeah, and I will say like this position is kind of an extension of my job almost. So I will be meeting with now Sergeant Shen. Is that what it would be? Sergeant Shen. Okay, decorum. Sergeant Shen to go over kind of how I view decorum and how that's going to work out and things like that. But yeah, I will say how I view the position and the roles that I plan to delegate to the sergeant position will not be similar to last session. So just be aware of that. But moving on, internal legislation. Notice of legislation on first reading, Internal Bill 5639, updates to Title 8, allowing RSOs under the Sport Club Council to receive Senate funding. Senator Borges, I hereby remand to ORS. Internal Bill 5640, updates to Title 9, penal action. Senator Borges, I hereby remand to LJR. Internal Bill 5641, updates to Title 11, name change in elections. Senator Benesh, I hereby remand to ENA. Internal Bill 5642, updates to Title 9, Title 9, updates and clarifications to the censure process. LJR Committee, I hereby remand to LJR. Internal Bill 5643, updates to Title 9, updates and clarifications to notifications of noncompliance. LJR Committee, I hereby remand to LJR. Internal Bill 5644, updates to Title 6, the election statute. Senator Lazo, I hereby remand to ENA. Resolutions, Resolution 5619, updates to Senate Rule 2, duties and responsibilities of the SBA Committee. Senator Hamid, I hereby remand to LJR. Resolution 5620, updates to Senate Rule 7, student Senate absences. Senator Hamid, I hereby remand to LJR. Proclamations, Proclamation 5639, proclamation recognizing May as Jewish American Heritage Month. Senator Rubin, I hereby remand to SBA. Proclamation 5640, proclamation denouncing Florida's involvement, Texas versus Becerra. Senator Johnson, I hereby remand to GAP. Proclamation 5641, proclamation recognizing April as Celebrate Diversity Month. Senator Smith, I hereby remand to SBA. Proclamation 5642, proclamation recognizing Ramadan from approximately March 1st to March 29th. Senator Al Quda, I hereby remand to SBA. Proclamation 5643, proclamation condemning SB 2C immigration bill and HB 1C immigration. Senator Escobar, I hereby remand to GAP. Proclamation 5644, proclamation recognizing March 29th, 2025 as National Vietnam War Veterans Day. Senator Kringle, I hereby remand to SBA. Proclamation 5645, proclamation recognizing March 22nd, 2025 as World Water Day and March 22nd through the 28th, 2025 as Earth Justice Week. Senator Lipner, I hereby remand to SBA. Notice of legislation on third reading, Internal Bill 5630, updates to Title III, changing orientation requirements. Senator Borges, is there a motion for a 5-10-10? Any objections? You object. Okay. Do you have a motion? Okay.
I want a motion to see all bills on third reading as a block because we've already seen them.
Is there a motion? There's been a motion to see all bills.
I object.
You object. Do you withdraw? Okay. Is there a motion for a 5-10-10? Any objections? Seeing none, 5 minutes whenever you're ready.
Sorry about that objection. Hey guys, we already saw this. Nothing has changed since last time. I would assume it has some less debate than some of the other ones on third reading. So with that, I yield.
All right, we're now online for questioning. Are there any questions for Senator Borges Benesh?
Move to debate.
There's been a motion to move to debate. Are there any objections? All right, seeing none, we're now in debate. All right, Benesh, Reed, Metellus.
Looks super good. Move to vote.
There's been a motion to vote. Are there any objections? All right, seeing none, we're now in voting procedures. All right, with a vote count of 36 to 2-0, Internal Bill 5630 passes on third reading. Okay, Internal Bill 5631 updates to Title V, DLEC Colazo. 5 minutes whenever you're ready.
I move to see Internal Bill 5631, 33, 34, 35 as a block.
There's been a motion to see Internal Bills 5631, 33, 34, and 35 as a block. Are there any objections?
I object.
I don't withdraw.
You don't withdraw. Okay. The objection was, I think. Okay, so Varela is going to take the objection. Whenever you're ready.
Yeah, I simply just objected because a specific question I wanted to ask about the Internal Bill 5631, and I'm sure there are other small questions, maybe just debate about the other bills, so especially since one of them is establishing a permanent caucus. That's a pretty big deal, and another one is affecting officio seats. So I feel like there might be need for further clarification or questions for that one. I just don't personally have a question about 5631, so that's why I objected.
Okay, 2 minutes whenever you're ready.
Thank you. These bills were passed unanimously last meeting. Also, seeing them as a block does not prevent questions to not be directed to the author of the bills. So we can definitely do that. It's just to save time. I'm looking at the vote count. The senators who were here, we all voted unanimously. So I see no reason not to see them as a block.
Okay. Borges, Metellus, Gumrov.
Yeah, I just want to clarify that I had to leave early last meeting, and so I didn't get to see 5633, and I refuse to see that with other bills as I have many issues with it. So,
Metellus.
I kind of agree with the sentiments of Colazo. I do feel like since they were passed unanimously, any specific questions about each of these bills could just be asked, like you said, now in any debate. It can all be discussed at the same time. That's just my opinion.
Gumrov.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was trying to do a little bit earlier. They're all on third reading. We've all seen them, majority of us. We've all voted favorably, majority. I looked through the bills before I even made the motion. Nothing has been changed. And so again, just to save time, rarely does it ever happen that we change our decision on third reading. And like everyone's been saying, you can ask questions. I just think that we have a lot of other bills that need more workshopping. These are kind of already, we know what's going on with them. So with that, I motion to move to vote.
Object.
Lazo, and then Lazo.
I don't think we've heard enough from both sides about it, and I do have a really passionate argument and a couple questions for it. So I just don't think it's fair for us to just move to vote.
Corelli, Trejo, Hernandez.
Yeah, these bills are all passed unanimously. They haven't changed at all. So I'm going to vote against the objection. I encourage you to do the same.
Move to vote.
There's been a motion to vote. Are there any objections? All right, seeing none or non-voting procedures, the objection is Varela. That means we are not seeing the bills as a block. So if you vote yes, that means we're not seeing them as a block. No is Collazo. That means we are seeing them as a block. All right, with a vote count of 11 to 28 to 0, the objection does not hold, and we will be seeing them as a block. All right, that means you have 5 minutes for all of the bills whenever you're ready.
Okay, so I'm very familiar with all 4 of the bills. I was either an advisor on the bill or I wrote the bill myself. So the first one is my bill with judicial branch. We're making them have a requirement that they're not allowed to provide informal interpretations of the governing documents. Pro tempore Morissette's bills are to allow agency members to be on caucuses and granting the vice president to appoint those members onto those caucuses. Chair Valera's is in regards to the Varela. My apologies. I saw the faces, saw them. In regards to how many ex officio seats a caucus can have and what is the changing the definition of an ex officio seat. And the last one is establishing the inter-campus caucus as a permanent standing caucus. And with that, I yield.
All right, we're now in line for questioning. All right, I'll go Borges and then Varela.
Would either the DLEG or the Pro Temp like to explain the possible impacts on every student government agency's members becoming student government agents?
Can you further elaborate in terms of what impacts you would notice for the agency members?
Yeah, well, I have some impacts in mind, but I want to know what you guys went through in your heads when writing this, that you thought of impacts and possible things that could occur.
When writing this, I think the biggest thing was holding them to the same accountability measures that student government agents currently have in terms of transparency, ethics, and things like that. I don't think within OSI they necessarily have like anything that holds them to those accountability measures, as well as I think it would make them more applicable to the caucuses as well. And that was kind of the biggest measure of making them student government agents.
All right, Varela.
Yeah, this is a question specifically about the updated Title V for DLEG Collazo. Would you say this bill was more proactive or reactive in nature? Basically, like, was there a specific incident that would like spur you on to make this bill?
Yes. Several instances. I mean, I mentioned them last meeting, but I'll go over them again, no problem. So in terms of the working, okay, so I don't know why I just did that. In terms of the working understanding, I just thought it was just a little bit weird that that's not mandated for justices, especially when they're determining a permanent outcome in judicial review, determining the permanent interpretation of our governing documents. Additionally, as stated in the beginning of the confirmations of the justices, the Chief Justice stated that they are not 14 additional attorney generals due to my line of questioning during ENA because I was asking them to name the statutes, and they're correct. They're not attorney generals, so therefore they should be acting like them. So in terms of the previous judicial review case, I just felt as though there was some sort of ethical gray line that was happening. So that's why I'm putting in there that they're not allowed to officially, uninformally and informally provide interpretive advice unless it comes from official judicial council hearings and proceedings. Yeah.
Any further questions? Gumrav?
Move the debate.
All right, there's been a motion to move to debate. Are there any objections? Seeing none, we're now in debate on all 4 of these. All right, Borges, Benesh, Gaudio.
Okay, so I just wanted to explain my concerns on just 5633. The reason I didn't want to get them seen together is because with this bill, the way it's written, Senate would be able to censure noncompliance and impeach members of agencies like a random night-thon coordinator. But in addition to that, this forces anyone who is in an agency that wants to be a senator, a justice, or an election commissioner to resign from their position because you can't take the oath of office twice, and this would require them to take the oath of office. I do want to explain as well that this requires, the way it's written, this requires any volunteer that is considered a member because they're a volunteer to also become student government agents. So CAB's council of all their volunteers, the way this is written seems that CAB members who volunteer would also be student government agents, which could be up to 100 volunteers. They also can't then become senators or can't become election commissioners, justices, etc. As someone, as of one of a few people who have done both an agency and Senate, I would not have been able to serve on one of those. I'd have to choose and decide. So we'd have less people in student government or less people in agencies, and I just don't think that is something I would be okay with.
Benesh.
I'll be voting in favor of all of the bills. I don't see any reason not to. We voted them all unanimously last reading, and they look good to me. I don't really share the same sentiments as Borges for that one bill, but besides that, it's chill.
Gaudio. Metellus, Morset, Colazo.
May I direct a question to the pro temp?
You may.
Is everything that was stated by Borges true in a sense, or what do you have to say about that?
So I actually want to direct a question to Senator Borges, but theoretically he's correct, but that's why I had a question right after, if I can ask it now. So the way it was previously written was that before it was student government agencies in this bill, it was just the student director of the agency. So beforehand, those student government directors could still be held to the same standard as current student government agents, correct?
The executive directors or the highest director, whatever they name it, would be held to the standards. We could noncompliance, we could censure, we could impeach them, correct? The way, can I add more clarification that help answer? The way that it includes that the members and then you put of any student government agency, that's what's implying it to then be below executive directors, and being any director, any volunteer, any member.
Also.
May I direct a question to Senator Borges and then debate?
You may.
To Senator Borges. To your knowledge, has the student directors been issued the oath of office before?
Whether or not they are, I'm not in judicial. However, they are required to. If they are student government agents, all student government agents must take the oath of office.
I have a follow-up for student government advisor.
Go ahead.
To your knowledge, Brody, has any student director received the oath of office?
I don't know. I don't advise those agencies, so I don't know.
Is there a motion for a non-committee member to speak? Any objections? Seeing none, Supervisor Brown.
Across the 3 agencies I've been part of, I have never taken the oath of office for anything other than student government.
In regards to my debate, I think the only thing that I have to say is if there is that concern, then my only advice is is to propose an amendment.
All right. Johnson, Metellus, Lazo.
Yes, I was going to be voting in favor, but with that concern brought up by Senator Borges, very happy you are here. I just would feel I would vote in favor if someone proposes an amendment. And yeah.
Metellus?
Clarifying question, if I may, for I guess whoever can answer. So, with the way it's written now, would it mean that it's statutorily required? Excuse me, statutorily required for all of those workers and members in all the other agencies who are now considered SG agents to take the oath of office with the judicial branch?
Do you have an answer?
Sorry, if you don't mind, this isn't necessarily an answer to Jordan's question, but earlier you asked about kind of the validity and accuracy of, and so I wanted to follow up. Based on what I have quickly looked at, because I was trying to kind of verify that. And Tyler, if there's something that I'm missing, what I'm finding is Chapter 1002. Upon accepting the oath of office for any position, a student government agent shall be considered resigned from any other elected or appointed student government position. So technically, as it stands, without any changes, it would mean that it actually is interesting because it would be in which order they got it. If you were, the marketing director for CAB, and then, were sworn into a student government office, that would be fine because you wouldn't be resigned from the other position. But if it was the other way and you were a senator and you got a position over there, took the oath of office, then you would be considered resigned from your Senate seat, cabinet position, whatever the case may be. So yes, Tyler's correct in his assertion that any of those positions, once you took the oath of office, you would be resigned from any other elected or appointed positions.
Okay. Any answer to Metellus's question, Colazo? If that was the answer or more debate?
What was the question against Metellus? Sorry.
With the way that the bill is currently written, and it's considering that all people that work for our agencies are now student government agents, would that mean that the judicial branch is statutorily required to have these members take the oath of office, like even if someone is just a homecoming volunteer?
That's a gray area. And I would say, because we don't know for certain if any of the student directors right now have received the oath of office. Additionally, when it comes to volunteers, I think that's also a gray area because you can consider SGLC as volunteers, but they're not given the oath of office. So I wouldn't necessarily include volunteers as agents. I think a better solution here is maybe outlining that executive board members of the agencies are considered student government agents. So that includes the student director, the assistant director, and some of the coordinators. But in this sense, yes, to your question, that technically, yes, they would have to issue the oath of office. However, to my recollection and to how long I've been here at UCF, I haven't heard of a student director receiving the oath of office from a justice.
Okay. Did I call anyone after Metellus? Lazo?
Herein lies the issue with seeing blocks. Bills as a block, because now we have this thing, and I would love to just give ICTC the roses that it deserves, but now I have to motion to see these amendments. So, Project Morris, are those amendments ready or no? So I'm just gonna yap then about ICTC. I think ICTC is great. They've been doing so much work. So let's go see those amendments when they're ready.
All right. Varela, Reed. Oh, Brody actually first.
Just really quickly, you at any point can make a motion to separate an item from the block if you wish to.
Varela, or go ahead.
Can I make the motion to debate? Motion to separate internal bill 5631 from the block.
There's been a motion to separate internal bill 5633 from the block. Are there any objections? All right, seeing none, internal bill 5633 is separated, but then where are we?
So you're still debating the other three, on 31,
Okay.
34, 35.
Okay, so we're just talking about everything but that. Okay, so you had debate.
Yeah, so I was going to debate on the other bill, but since that has been banished to the shadow room at this point, yeah, I love ICTC. We should definitely keep it permanent. And I don't know if we have any other things to say about these other bills, but motion to vote.
There's been a motion to vote. Are there any objections? All right, seeing none, we're now in voting procedures on internal bills 56, 31, 33, and 35. Oh, 34. I said 34, but I just said 33. 34, 35, not 33. All right, with a vote count of 40 to 0, internal bills 56, 31, 34, and 35 pass on third reading. All right. All right, internal bill 5633. Is there a motion for 10 minutes of debate? Any objections? All right, seeing none, more set.
Motion to see my amendments and De La Clausos as friendlies.
There's been a motion to see Pro Temp Morset's amendments and DLEG Colazzo's amendments as a friendly. Are there any objections? All right, seeing none, whenever you're ready.
Yeah, so I was just adding, because the sentiment made by Senator Borges was fair. So I was adding the amendment to make it more amendable to everybody in the body, since it is kind of a gray area in terms of those members who are volunteers for certain agencies. I don't want to blur those lines, so I just limited to the executive members, because I do still want the caucus membership to be extended to them without having all those kind of gray and inconsistencies. So with that, I yield to questioning.
All right, we're now in line for questioning. Are there any questions? Alcuda.
So by executive board members, would that just be like any officer of a student government affiliated agency?
Yeah, like to my assumption, I think that would include like all the coordinators, all of the directors. 'Cause I know some agencies have like more than just one assistant director. So yeah, I think it would include all of their officers.
Metellus.
Are you willing to see Borges' amendment as a friendly?
So my computer powered off, so I can't see it.
Do you want me to read it out? Or do
Yes.
Okay. Any further questions, Borges?
Yeah, just to clarify on my amendment, thank you for accepting that. And the way I wrote it kind of made it to where they're not required, but they can be made required to. So if someone wanted to make them take the oath of office, they could, but this allows it to where you can be a student government agent and an agency coordinator or executive director. Hopefully that fixed the problems.
All right, Gumarov.
Move to vote.
I object.
It would have been moved to debate. Do you still object to moving to debate?
Yes.
Do you withdraw? Okay, Varela.
Yeah. Does this fix the scenario that Brody presented, where if I'm a senator and then I get a job on the e-board of one of these agencies, I will then be resigned from position?
I think that's more of a question for Senator Borges.
So essentially that would fix it. The only case where it would not fix that is if, let's say, for example, student body president could be like, hey, take the oath. And then if they take the oath, then that would happen. But this makes it to where you're not required to take the oath.
Alcuda.
So this amendment just kind of clears up the issue that Senator Borges presented. It doesn't restrict anybody else from like being included in the membership of the caucuses, right?
That was a question.
Oh yeah, I shoved my head. Yeah, I answered.
Oh, okay. Okay, Metellus.
I'm kind of confused about they can still be forced to take the oath if like the president said so part of that. How does that work?
So as someone who's been in an agency and an SG and has been here quite longer than maybe I should have, to my understanding, the agencies, while they're not directly under the executive branch, the intent is that they are agencies like in the federal government, where it's federal government, the branches, and then agencies are under the executive branch. So while the vice president, I don't know if you guys know, the Agency Department Strategic Planning Board, ADSB, as we say, that's chaired by the vice president. And that vice president meets with these agency heads and they go over, all the things they need to be doing and their progress and their events and how they're impacting students, et cetera, et cetera. And there's a vice chair from that actually serves on the budget committee. An agency head serves on the budget committee. And so long story short, to my understanding, unless someone else has something that says otherwise, essentially, if the president requires that the agency heads take an oath, then they can technically require that because as student government agents, they should be taking the oath. But the weird loophole we have is that if they're not taking the oath, then technically they don't have to resign from a student government position to do both. Does that make sense?
Good.
So to clarify, like that's like in the president's power to do so.
I'm not sure if it's just in the president's power. I'm assuming by a vote, the Senate could force someone, I guess. I'm not exact. That's a gray area. But to an extent, because agencies are under the executive branch in the federal government and kind of in this government, then that would be the case.
Any further questions? Metellus.
To debate.
There's been a motion to move to debate. Are there any objections? All right, seeing none, we're now in debate. Courts, Varela, Metellus.
Yeah, I like these amendments. It kind of fixes one of the gray area questions I had when it came to LJR, which was like for MSc, because I don't really know how MSc works. I know that they give spaces for RSO. So my question was kind of like, do they count as well? But having the executive board members explicitly lined up, said in the bill fixes that automatically. And it also fixes Borges's issue. So happy about that.
Varela.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna be in favor of the amendments. I think one thing that we didn't really talk about as much as like the oath of office is like if the bill passed unamended, it'll give us the power to impeach like a random member of CAB, which is kind of crazy. I don't think we should have the power to go like, walk in saying your job's gone, sorry. I think that's crazy. So I would much rather, us only have the jurisdiction over the board members because those are, I guess, more in again our jurisdiction. So yeah, definitely vote yes for the amendments.
Metellus.
Yes, I'll also be voting in favor of these amendments. Thank you, Borges, for noticing this. Because if you weren't here, I think this bill would have just passed as is, and it would have been really scary to have this in statutes with a situation like that. So I'm glad that we saw that and have fixed it, and I'll be voting in favor with that move to vote.
There's been a motion to vote on the amendments. Any objections? All right, seeing none, we're now on voting procedures. All right, with the vote count of 37 to 0, the amendments passed. We're still in debate on the bill. Banesh.
Now I can say with full confidence that we probably all think this looks pretty good, so I'll be voting in favor and I move to vote.
There's been a motion to vote on Internal Bill 5633. Are there any objections? All right, seeing none, we're now in voting procedures. All right, with the vote count of 36 to 1-0, Internal Bill 5633 passes on third reading. Gaudio.
I move to see all of the resolutions on third reading as a block.
There's been a motion to see resolution 5613, 14, 15, and 18 as a block. Are there any objections? You object, do withdraw.
I do not.
All right. Reed, you have 2 minutes whenever you're ready.
Yeah, so just like the previous kind of sentiment said about putting all the bills in one block, I believe that we should look at each and every one of them individually because this allows space for there to be like paying attention to explicit details and ensuring that we know exactly what is being passed in all honesty. And I think it's good to look at each and every single one of these individually because they all are pretty different in their own ways. And I just think that it's up to our best discretion to essentially look at these all individually instead of as a block.
Gaudio.
As senators, we are responsible for looking at the agenda before the meeting and understand what's going to be on the docket. In the previous block, there was just one controversial bill, which people did not want included as the block, which we just removed from the block. If there's a particular resolution that we think merits particular attention, we can move it out of the block, but there's no reason to not already know what is going to be discussed.
All right, we're now in a 5-minute period of debate. Benwick, Collazo, Gumrov.
I will be voting in favor with the motion, just because Resolution 5618 we saw in a block with 5635, both in LJR and on the Senate floor last week. And all the other resolutions, though they may be vastly different in what they're advocating for, they all did pass unanimously last week, and I think it's just a waste of time to not see them as a block.
Collazo.
I agree with Benwick.
Who did I say? I said Gumrov.
Yeah, I also agree. I mean, even though we had one issue, we were able to save 3 different bills from having the same speech, questioning, debate issue. We see things as a block all the time. I'm not quite sure why it's being a huge issue today, but this is third reading. Like I said, we do it all the time. And if something seems to be a problem, we'll pull it out like we just did. And I just feel like we're wasting a little bit of time here even discussing this.
Rickett, Johnson, Trejo, Hernandez.
Move to vote on the objection.
There's been a motion to vote on the objection. Are there any objections? All right, seeing none, we're now on voting procedures. The objection was read. So voting yes means that we are not seeing them in a block. The motion was Gaudio, no, that means we are seeing them in a block. Anyone confused? We got it, okay. All right, with a vote count of 7 to 30 to 0, we will be seeing the resolutions in a block. The objection fails. All right. I guess who wants to take these up? I guess Vasquez. Okay. All right. Is there actually, you did it. You have 5 minutes whenever you're ready.
Hi, everyone. So yeah, these passed unanimously at our last meeting. Just to kind of reiterate what they're about, at least the first 3 resolutions, 13, 14, and 15, they're advocating for different policy areas that we discussed with our lobbying firm, Gray Robinson, that we came up through different avenues. I did want to say last time I didn't remember during my speech, but I did want to mention it. Senator Hendry, I would not have been able to write the one about extending the programs eligible for the STEM tuition waiver without your suggestions. So I wanted to commend you for that and all your help and advice through it. And additionally, we got a lot of responses on the legislative priority survey that also addressed this issue. So obviously we were able to conclude that this was a pretty big issue. And then obviously the implementation of toll relief measures and the SNAP requirements, the expansion of SNAP requirements in the state of Florida for college student eligibility, all really important issues. I got really great feedback from you guys after our last Senate meeting, which I really appreciate. And can I yield to Varela for the last part?
For the 5618 resolution? Yeah, so that resolution is just going with the one to make ICTC permanent. Yeah, it's nothing, it's not a big deal. It just adds it to the Senate agenda.
All right, we're now online for questioning. Trey Hernandez.
Debate.
There's been a motion to move to debate. Are there any objections? All right, seeing none, we're now in debate. Banesh Lazo.
I mean, these are all pretty straightforward. Like, who wouldn't want to advocate for, like SNAP? I know some of y'all been wanting that SNAP, so like, I don't see why not. The STEM tuition waiver too, like free school. And I love ICTC, like beautiful caucus. I'm voting in favor for all of them.
Lazo.
May I retain?
You may.
Perfect. So like the Chair Vanessa just said, these are all great bills. There's really no reason to not vote on them. I just wanted to go in depth and say that each of these bills are something that really greatly affects and benefits the student population, which is what we're here to do and to represent. SNAP is great. I love my little SNAP meals once in a while. Yum, yum, yum. STEM waiver, for those of you that didn't know, I used to be electrical engineering. That was great. Missed that. And then updates to Senate Rule 4, Business of the Senate. It's been really proud to see Chair Varela's ICTC grow from an SLC project to a literal actual caucus. So we can all just give him a little round of applause when this passes. That'd be really great for him. And with that, move to vote.
All right, there's been a motion to vote on the block of resolutions. Are there any objections? All right, seeing none, we're now in voting procedures. All right, with a vote count of 39 to 0, Resolution 5613, 14, 15, and 18 pass on third reading. All right, notice of legislation on second reading, Internal Bill 5636, updates to Title 6, paid endorsements, postponed in committee. Internal Bill 5637, updates to Title 3, general updates and revisions, LJR committee. You guys have 5 minutes whenever you're ready.
Okay, so I'm just gonna take the first part of this. If I can open it, give me just a second. So this was just our general Title III updates and revisions. A lot of them are just clarifying things. So the part where it says that a student body senator shall be considered resigned upon written notice of the Senate President. I feel like that's something that we do, but it is good to have it in writing. The Sergeant at Arms one, moving it from appointed by the Senate President pro tempore into just by the Speaker, because the Speaker's job, well, the Chair's job is to maintain decorum. There is an amendment there. We will talk about that in debate because it was just a little fumble on my part. What else did we do? From changing it from posted in accordance with the Sunshine Law to Title 12 Student Government Transparency. And then we have a little snippet where we put that the Student Government Attorney General receives the minutes that are from the committees after, those committees for LJR and ENA, just because like when they see legislation, it's good for the Attorney General to know. And then we changed it from the committees that are elected within the Senate to be appointed. And for the last part, I will yield to Senator Benwick.
Hi guys, first time being part of a bill, so I'm excited. This part of the Title III revision is to update the number of committees a senator may sit on. The minimum has not changed. It is still a minimum of 1 committee. However, now a senator may sit on a maximum of 3 committees, but no more than 2 internal or 2 fiscal committees unless they are representative for LJR or ORS. The internal and fiscal committees are defined by the Senate agenda. To address some concerns I've received about these revisions in regard to an overpowering voice for one senator and how the government is structurally ran. In regards to the structure, this was a reference to the government, and as a senator may not sit on more than 2 committees, I do refute this argument due to the simple fact that we are not the government, and a senator who wishes to sit on 3 committees should be able to do so for the learning experience, especially if that senator is wishing to serve in Senate leadership, as this would make them a more effective leader. The issue of an overpowering voice was brought to light by Vice Chair Gaudio in initial discussion within committee. While I appreciate this concern, there are restrictions on which committees they can sit on, and that is my belief that if the senator sits on 3 internal or fiscal committees as an elected representative, that the ORS and LJR committee would be wise enough to elect a representative that they know would be level-headed and would not gain an advantage to serving the fiscal or internal side of Senate. And with that, I yield to questioning.
All right, we're now in line for questioning. Johnson and then Gumrov.
So, if a senator wants to learn for experience in things, what will they be learning by sitting and having voting power on these committees that they can't learn by just attending these committee meetings?
So I would say it's direct hands-on experience. So this would be for senators actually wanting to sit on 3 committees. They can sit on all the committees of their exact preference that they'd like to. However, let's say, for instance, I sit technically on 2 committees right now between LJR and then the LJR rep for GAP. If I wanted to sit on a second committee, I could go sit on SBA and still be within compliance. But if I wanted to sit on a third committee, I would need to go on ROS. And this would give me I want to say like administrative experience of the financial side, especially if I wanted to go into something like DLEG or anything pro temp related where they see a lot more fiscal legislation. It would give you that side and make you a more well-rounded leader, because you can sit in on those meetings, but then they have to motion for you to be able to speak. You have to speak in open forum. And I think that's just really repetitive and kind of annoying to those meetings. And I think it would just be better that they are a member. Especially because I don't think there's many senators that want to be on 3 committees right now just because of the time commitment. So I think the ones that really want to make that strive to be able to should be allowed to.
Good move.
Yeah, just out of general curiosity, so when the maximum a senator can serve on 2 fiscal committees, since there's currently 3 fiscal committees, so there's ORS, FAO, and CRT. However, FAO and CRT are the only ones that allocate out money. Do you not see that as sort of being the issue with the overpowering, since they are the only 2 fiscal like bills that get voted on for fiscal
I'm going
committees?
to yield to chair courts.
Could you, I guess, like restructure your question, because as it stands right now, people could join FAO and CRT right now.
Well, then that's why I don't understand the maximum of the 2 fiscal committees and the 2 internal committees being like a helper to stop an overpowering like person, because they could just do that.
Well, it stops them in the in the sense that they can't join all 3 fiscal committees. So yes, they can be on CRT and FAO, but they can't be on ORS. They'd have to join an internal committee, so they wouldn't have the overpowering voice of all 3 fiscal committees.
Shen.
Do you see any issues with like the very, very small chance, but an individual could technically be chair of one committee and then they could be vice chair of 3 committees? That to me seems a little bit like giving too much power to one senator.
Vice chair of 3 committees?
Well, if they can they can sit on 3 committees, can't they technically become vice chair of 3 committees then?
I mean, in that same sense, I was vice chair of ENA and LJR. So wouldn't that be a power grab as well into the internal committees? Additionally, I'm a caucus chair too. I will also add that, like, on top of the federal government limiting, their committee assignments, the way they go around that is by adding subcommittees. So if you actually go right now to Congress's Maxwell Frost's page, he's like technically assigned to like 5 to 6 different committees. So I don't think this is unusual.
And then to add to that, I do understand your concern with this, but it is a concern, but I feel like it's kind of a pseudo concern as the committees stand now. So I don't think that anything would change.
Benwick.
Just kind of echoing what the previous 2 senators said, I think it's kind of along the same lines of not many people already want to be on 3 committees. So if the fact that they want to make that time commitment to sit as a leadership role on those committees, they should have it. And if you feel like there's a check on it, you can be a part of voting in negation. Or if they get elected and you feel like their power is corrupt, you have the power to issue non-compliance, censure, or impeach them.
All right, we're still in questioning. Rickett, Lazo, Akuda.
Move to go to debate.
There's been a motion to move to debate. Are there any objections? All right, seeing none, we're now in debate. You guys have 10 minutes. All right, Gaudio, Courts, Rickett.
Of course, I'm quite biased because I'm the vice chair of the committee that's putting this forward, but I think this is a wonderful, amazing little bill, and I believe that my particular concerns about having that one huge outsized voice have been adequately addressed by the 2 committee limit for fiscal and internal. I believe that it is quite good, so I encourage you all to vote in favor.
Rickett. Or did I do Courts and then Rickett? Okay.
Move to see my amendment.
There's been a motion to see Courts amendment. Are there any objections? All right, seeing none, whenever you're ready.
Okay, so this was a major fumble on my part. For some reason, when I was in committee, I thought that this was an amendment I added. So made that amendment in committee. We struck it out because I said that it was an amendment that I made. I did not make that amendment. It was a part of the original Title III, and when it's strucken out, 304.4C no longer makes sense. So please put it back.
All right, we're now line for questioning. Trejo Hernandez.
Move to debate.
There's been a motion to move to debate. Are there any objections? All right, seeing none, we're now in debate. Joliker.
Move to vote.
There's been a motion to vote.
I object.
You object. Do you withdraw? You withdraw. Okay, Collazo.
It wasn't a mistake necessarily in the chair court's part. It was my amendment. So I don't necessarily think it's entirely necessary to state where duties and responsibilities can be found in the same given statutes. Because if you scroll down in Title III, you'll find the responsibilities of the internal and external assistant. I think what would be a better option here is to just reword the chapter 304.4C. I think the problem is any other responsibilities, right? So just including as deemed appropriate by this title, right? My big thing as DLEG is conciseness and clarity, and to remove anything that's not necessarily necessary, and how we can better reword or improve things. I don't completely think it's necessary to add it back in. I think it's just rewording C, so it's worded better to include that the Senate President can assign administrative duties that they typically do, but beyond the duties and responsibilities stipulated in the statutes of the assistants. So I encourage this chamber to vote no on the amendment as I try to figure out how to reword C.
Benwick.
May I retain?
You may.
I'm going to side with chair courts on this amendment. Even a goat makes mistakes sometimes. So motion to vote on the amendment.
There's been a motion to vote on the amendment. Are there any objections? All right, seeing none, we're now in voting procedures. All right, with a vote count of 18 to 14 to 3, the amendment passes. All right, we're still in debate on the bill. I said Rickett.
All right. So when it comes to the bills, and I'll give people a little point of clarity when it comes to joining committees and memberships on committees. In the United States federal government, there's 535 members of the House and the Senate. 100 members of the Senate, 435 in the House. Now, senators, obviously, since there's fewer of them, they serve on more committees, and they don't just have to be standing committees. They could be joint committees, subcommittees, and also special committees. Members of the House of Representatives, all 435 members of them, serve on fewer committees, but they can also be on subcommittees and special committees as well. Just because you're on multiple committees doesn't necessarily mean you're not a subject matter expert, you're not qualified, or there's a conflict of interest for any other committee. That's just a point of clarification for all those who are kind of on the fence about the issue. Thank you.
All right, Benwick.
Motion to vote on the bill.
There's been a motion to vote. Are there any objections?
Objections. I have amendments.
Oh, do you withdraw? Okay, Lazo.
Motion to see my amendments as technicals.
There's been a motion to, yeah, I'll see them as technicals. Okay, Lazo.
Move to vote.
There's been a motion to vote. Are there any objections? All right, seeing none, we're now in voting procedures. All right, with the vote count of 35 to 2 to 0, Internal Bill 5637 passes on second reading. Internal Bill 5638 updates to Title 3. Chair Vasquez, you have 5 minutes whenever you're ready.
Give me 2 seconds. Sorry. Okay. So this bill did not pass through LJR yesterday. It had a bunch of amendments on it yesterday, though, and those also did not pass. So I took a lot of the sentiments that were given during LJR and I made a lot of amendments in collaboration with Dila Colazo. So the intention behind this is that if you're not in GAP, you wouldn't know, but in GAP, we've had the government affairs coordinator sit in on our meetings. The agenda that was given to me included the GAC on our roster. So it was kind of like precedent that they come to our meetings and give announcements and discuss any events that they had coming up and use them as a resource for anything that we might have had questions for, things like that. And then one day with Brody, I found out that they actually don't have like a legislated seat or role in GAP. So I'm glad we pointed that out. So the intention of this bill is to actually write that in and include them as a seat in GAP. The debate against it in LJR was that originally I had written it as them having debating rights, no voting rights. So that was seen unfavorably because, and I quote, it was seen as a half measure, which I think is the perfect way to describe it because, you know, what's the point kind of if, you know, that's basically already what they have. And also sharing this, the sentiments that President Lister shared during his announcements today, that anyone can just come in and sit in a public meeting, in whatever public meeting, so the GAC could do the same. But I think it is important as in statutes, it does state that their role has to collaborate with the GAP committee on things regarding the advocacy agenda. So I find it important that we write it in. And to address Dila Colazo's amendments to it, it adds kind of that stipulation that they have a reason to go to GAP apart from the collaboration on the advocacy agenda, because that can be kind of vague and misinterpreted. So yeah, the changes I've made as of yesterday is making them an ex officio member. And that just means that they would be a non-voting, non-debating member. They would still be able to have debating rights if there is a motion during committee for them to have debating rights. So yeah, that's basically it. I yield the rest of my time.
All right, we're now online for questioning. You guys have 10 minutes. I'll do Richmond, Rickett, Gaudio.
I see there's an amendment for the ENA committee by you. Why didn't you also include LJR and the Attorney General? I guess just for like following.
Do you mean like, oh wait, sorry. Can I answer that? Or question back? I don't know.
If you would like to answer, go ahead.
What do you mean in regard to the Attorney General?
Well, are they in statutes like this too?
No, they aren't.
Why wouldn't we follow precedent if we're gonna?
Because things seen in LJR are directly Senate measures, and yeah, Vasquez.
I mean, I don't know your experience with the Attorney General in your committee and the purpose that they serve. I do know obviously the GAC's and the Capital Coordinator's role in GAP, because it does say statutorily that they have to collaborate with us. I don't know if it's the same for Attorney General, so I don't see why that would be necessary. If you would want it to be added, I could see that, but I'm not going to make that amendment myself.
Do you have an answer, Colazo?
Yes.
Go ahead.
If I may. Thank you. I don't think it's necessary to add the Attorney General. The Attorney General is, well, technically, if we want to be very technical, then we would allocate an ex officio seat to them for LJR, ORS, and ENA, and any committee that passes any measures that change the governing documents. So it's kind of like a little redundant. I think with these these are more unique positions, right? With the supervisor, it's more so to give ENA updates, because ENA acts like an oversight body onto them to ensure that they're running the election commission properly. And then Day at the Capitol, again, it's because they have to work in unison when planning the Day at the Capitol event. But yeah.
Okay, Rickett.
I have a question. So, do you believe that having a member of the executive cabinet sit on one of our committees is necessary? I believe it would be create an undue influence, a huge influence on our Senate business to have a member of the executive branch sitting on one of our committees. So let's say, for instance, what if the Secretary of State were to sit on one of the committees on the Foreign Affairs Committee in Senate? Wouldn't that make sense to not have that executive cabinet level position inside of the Senate? Shouldn't the Senate have an independent course for conducting business?
I think there would be a lack of independence if they were a voting member, but they wouldn't even be a debating or voting member on the committee. I think it is important that an executive cabinet member sits in because it is something, specifically the Day at the Capitol event is something that we have purview over, as well as the Day at the Capitol coordinator, and it's stated that we have to collaborate on it. So there really is no other space that the GAP committee, because right now we are full, 14 members would in any way kind of have a space to collaborate with the Day at the Capitol coordinator or GAC other than the GAP committee meeting. So, even just in terms of efficiency, having them there, and other like instances of giving announcements of any events that are relevant to GAP, this is a space that they could have announce those events and ask for help or volunteers or any suggestions on their events. Again, collaboration. And then, that's
Follow up. So hypothetically speaking, if the member, if that GAC coordinator didn't like anything that was said or passed, or didn't have their piece of legislation pushed forward in that committee, couldn't they hold that against one of the committee members' heads if they wanted to go to Day at the Capitol?
I feel like that's just a completely different conversation in terms of their role of being the Day at the Capitol coordinator. That doesn't really impede on what this bill is aiming for. I feel like that just goes into kind of like a no confidence territory, if anything, if they were to do that. But I don't think that's at the fault of the GAP committee if they were to do that.
Gaudio.
May I provide a point of information?
Like an answer to the question?
Just kind of, because it was no confidence got mentioned, it wouldn't be a no confidence. That's for legislative officer positions. It would have to be an impeachment.
Thank you.
Okay. Do you have a question? Okay. Gumrov.
I'm going to try to phrase this correctly. So, since the GAC coordinator would have no voting rights or debating, and they're currently already in your agenda, may I ask what is this just forcing the GAC to go? And if that's what that's doing, is this not just a lack of communication between the GAC and the committee? Wait, can you say that one more time? I'm sorry. Like, since the GAC coordinator with this would sit on the committee, but yet no voting, no debating rights, right? Mm-hmm. But they already are currently in your agenda, so they're already currently technically supposed to be going to your meetings, and also like collaboration is always encouraged with you too. So my question is this kind of trying to force a relationship? And if so, is this something that's independent to the current situation going on? Like, is this being more reactive, I guess, in a sense? I understand your question. I think it's not personal at all, but in terms of it being, yes, it's something that's currently like the GAC and the committee can like answer the question, but the GAC has been to the committee meetings a few times to give announcements and such, but they're not required to do that. So it is a courtesy that they are there. I can't say the same for the future GAC or any coordinator that holds that position that they will be doing that. It was under my impression and their impression, because she was also under the impression that she was required to go to these meetings. But if it wasn't legislated, they would not be required to. And I feel like in terms of the already mentioned collaboration that they are required to do, and they also are required to attend GAP at least when we pass the advocacy agenda. This kind of just make sure that that collaboration is happening in this space.
If there's any GAP member who wanted to speak, I will have you save it for debate. Any questions remaining? Richmond.
Did you talk to the GAC about this before?
About writing this bill?
Yeah. Did y'all
Collaborate. Yeah, about what?
Did y'all like collaborate in the bill or something?
No, we did not necessarily. I had already introduced the bill once we discussed it, so any changes that they proposed would have had to be made as amendments. She did ask me. I did remove her role from the agenda because she doesn't sit on the committee, so there was really no point of having it on, and I wanted to, be consistent. And I told her why I did that was because in statutes it wasn't said anywhere. So we did discuss the changes that I was making.
All right, we have a little less than 2 minutes remaining in questioning. Rickett.
Move to go to debate.
There's been a motion to move to debate. Are there any objections? All right, seeing none, we're now in debate. Remember, you guys have 10 minutes and there's a lot of hands, so try to keep it concise. Okay, Shen Benesh Lazo.
Speaking as a member of GAP, I will be voting in favor of this. Chair Vasquez and Vice Chair Varela have done an amazing job in GAP, but I will say when GAC Polera was there, it just helped the meetings go a lot smoother simply because a lot of times in GAP, we're asking questions. We're trying to reach to Andrea, like, what did GAC Polera say about this? And by having her actually be present there and requiring that and a future GAC, I think it would be a lot more effective to undergo meetings. Furthermore, I don't think it's going to cause any issues where, as Andrea said, you would need to have to impeach the GAC for an issue like that. I think that's totally a separate area. And I don't think, while I understand that we are modeled a lot off the federal government, I don't think in this specific state that's a fair comparison. But I encourage you all to vote in favor of this. I think it's already enforcing something that happened earlier this session, has happened in prior sessions, and it's just simplifying things.
Ganesh.
I honestly don't know how I feel about this bill. While I understand the sentiments of the GAP committee, and I appreciate that, like, I understand that the GAC's participation in these meetings may be helpful, but I don't believe they are paramount. I believe that most of, these communications can happen outside of committee as well. So I need to hear more debate, but that's what I'm feeling right now.
Okay, I know I said Lazo, but Chair Vasquez really wants to see the amendments, I think, so if that's okay. Okay, Vasquez.
Motion to see mine and Dila Colazo's amendments.
Sorry, I don't know what that was. Okay. There's been a motion to see Chair Vasquez and Dila Colazo's amendments as a block. Are there any objections? All right, seeing none, whenever you're ready.
Okay, so like I said in the speech, right now the bill as it reads without the amendments would make the day at the Capitol coordinator have debating rights, but after discussion in the LJR committee, it was suggested, the reason why it didn't pass was because that wasn't seen favorably. So I decided to change it to ex officio members and to remain consistent, extend that to the ENA committee. Something that Dila Colazo had said during LJR was that we shouldn't really be giving legislator roles to non-senators. And that really stuck with me after yesterday's LJR meeting. So I wanted to carry that over and just remain consistent. I now don't think that we should be giving voting rights to anyone other than ourselves because that's the power that we hold. And that's, just in the statutes of what our role is in the branches. And then in addition to
the Day at the Capitol coordinator's responsibilities of giving us reports to the GAP committee to enforce the collaboration on the advocacy agenda. Something that I also wanted to mention was, to Benwick's point, it is a lot easier when the GAC is there because a lot of questions are asked to me and I don't always have an answer to them. So when the GAC is present and the questions are able to be asked to her directly, she obviously has those answers and can answer them at the moment. Instead, some senators have had to send emails to receive answers, and that isn't always the most effective option, but I do think that the space that the GAC committee holds in our meetings is very valuable, and I think all these changes reflect that. So I yield the rest of my time.
All right, we're not late for questioning. Rickett Gaudio.
Senator, I have a question. If members of the GAP committee have a question that you can't answer, wouldn't that make the government affairs coordinator basically the chair if they're literally answering and doing all the work for you?
So our roles are very different in nature. They just overlap in terms of we have purview over the policy that's seen at the Capitol, and the GAC has purview over the meetings that are scheduled, like scheduling the charter bus, scheduling all those different things, like the actual logistics of the event, while we have purview over the policy. Sometimes senators have questions about how the event is going to be run, and that is not my jurisdiction. So, or even just apart from Day at the Capitol, the GAC has held events promoting the Political and Legal Info Fair, which was super helpful, and I'm glad a lot of GAP people were able to attend and volunteer at those events, just in general, not necessarily Day at the Capitol.
Follow up.
So you're saying the point of having the GAC be on that committee, is it to answer questions on policy, or is it answer questions on logistics and transportations about Day at the Capitol?
I mean, questions about anything. There were a lot of questions about the application process for Day at the Capitol. That is not something I oversee. Just questions on everything. I can't really give you an answer on what kind of questions people are going to ask in the future. But I do think it's valuable for them to be there. Also, I do think that us having them there when creating the advocacy agenda is another valuable piece of information and a resource that we can use when creating that.
Gaudio.
Did you have any discussions with GAC Polera or President Lister before writing the amendments to this bill?
I mentioned it in the GAP committee multiple times about making changes about to the roles, but I did not, other than a few Teams messages, did not discuss it with them.
Okay, Marcette.
While I do understand the need for consistency between GAP and ENA and how their respective other branch heads are kind of collaborating, can you, have you had two questions, if I may. Have you had a discussion with the supervisor of elections on changing their power/seat in ENA?
I did actually before when I was writing the amendment. I did discuss it with the supervisor of elections, and if someone wants to make a motion for him to talk, but from my point of view in making these changes, I understand that it was an effort to get them to have voting rights in ENA over Title VI. The reason for that, the logic behind it, is so that we don't over legislate their role or things that they have to oversee. But if that were the case, then we'd have to kind of do that for any student government agent that might think that we're over legislating their role. So that's just my personal opinion. That's why I made those changes also to the ENA committee, in addition to keeping it all consistent.
Any further questions? Do you have a question? Okay.
So you said that you had discussions with the supervisor of elections concerning their place. So why did you not see it as prudent to have a similar conversation with GAC Polera or President Lister?
I mean, it was just more in the sense of the GAC already has gone to the GAP committee multiple times, so I didn't really find it necessary to like see if they wanted to continue sitting on GAP. It was really not like much of a question, if that makes sense. They're already going. Why not just legislate that they keep on going? That was really my point of view on it. And my conversation with the supervisor of elections wasn't more than a minute long, and it was like 5 minutes before the Senate meeting started, and it was just more of a courtesy that I was going to make these amendments right now.
Benwick Courts.
Move to debate on the amendment. Yeah.
There's been a motion moved to debate. Are there any objections?
I object. I feel like the question that I asked would probably answer Galio's better.
Okay, go ahead.
I guess more so just because we know that a supervisor of elections has rights to vote on things pertaining to elections in Title VI. Does the GAC have the same voting rights within GAP?
Voting rights on the committee right now?
Yes.
I mean, it's not even listed in statute, so no. But would they have? We've never really voted on anything, so until like now when it comes to date the Capitol. So we've never really encountered this problem until it kind of became a problem.
Okay.
All right. Varela.
May I retain?
You may.
Yeah, sorry. I had a question. How many times, if you can remember, this semester has the GAC attended the GAP committee?
I do not know off the top of my head. I would say we've had how many GAP meetings? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 or 9 GAP committee meetings this semester. I would say maybe about 3 or 4 they've attended.
All right. Marcel.
Motion to allow a non-senator to speak, being Supervisor Brown.
There's been a motion to allow a non-senator to speak, that being Supervisor Brown. Are there any objections?
I object.
I do not withdraw.
All right. You have 2 minutes.
Wait, I go first? Right?
No objection
Okay.
goes first.
So, I'm objecting because, this is a legislative decision. And, as much as we can, appreciate conversations with outside members, I think that it was already done, right? GAP Chair Vasquez clearly had conversations. Additionally, we objected to President Lesser not speaking when we were deciding overturning his veto. We've also in committee objected to members of the Judicial Council speaking in LJR because this is a legislative matter, right? So I think we should just, take into account our opinions and make that decision solely. I know we want to include others in the conversation. However, they are not legislators. We are. So yeah, with that, I yield.
Yeah, I made the motion because I believe even with like the explanation given by Chair Vasquez, I think it's important to get the fuller explanation from Supervisor Brown, as I do understand the sentiment of keeping it kind of consistent across the two committees, but I do feel like with the way it's listed in statutes in terms of the Election Commission, as well as the election statutes and they at the Capitol statutes, the election statutes was a lot more explicit and there's a lot more changes, there's a lot more details. So I think taking away the voting rights, especially from the supervisor of elections, is kind of detrimental to how they run elections and how they can run it in the future. So I don't want that kind of to be taken away in accordance with also this internal bill without hearing kind of the sentiments of the supervisor of elections. So with that, I yield to question.
All right, we're now on a 5-minute debate period. Okay. Collazo Gumarov.
Just to have like a okay, so I don't know why Siri turned on. No idea. I apologize. Sorry. Just like throw out like counter argument. It's not detrimental. Coming as from ENA leadership, I never agreed with the fact that the supervisor had voting power within the committee. That's something that Chair DeCaro did last year, and I respected that. However, the supervisor is not an elected official. We are the legislator. We make the rules, we make the laws, right?
We are in debate just on the motion, just remember.
And
In the motion to what?
To allow Supervisor Brown to speak, but just
Right.
remember that, but keep going.
I'm sorry. So I don't think it's entirely necessary to hear the supervisor's input. So yeah.
Gumrov.
Yeah, I actually have a question for whoever could potentially answer, anyone in ENA or anything at all. What kind of voting things like is the supervisor voting on? Because I didn't even know that they I don't know how that works.
You can answer really quick, but just remember any questions pertaining to the amendment, we can ask and debate on the amendment. Right now, we're just asking if Supervisor Brown can speak.
Right, but it's the election statutes. They can only vote on election statutes, no confirmations.
Rickett,
Move to vote on the objection.
there's been a motion to vote on the objection. Are there any objections? All right, seeing none on non-voting procedures, the objection was Collazo. So Collazo means that Supervisor Brown cannot speak. No is more set. That means Supervisor Brown will be able to speak. All right, with the vote count of 13 to 23 to 0, the objection fails. So Supervisor Brown does have speaking privileges. But yeah, more so.
Question to Supervisor Brown.
Yeah, go ahead.
How do you think it would be detrimental to the Election Commission or just the Supervisor of Elections position to take away voting/debating rights in ENA in the future?
So our position requires us to be hyper aware of the statutes and then be involved with every aspect of the elections. Us not being involved with ENA on this level would basically, in part, discourage future supervisors to be part of ENA on this deep of a level, but it would also, sorry, would you mind repeating the question? I honestly could not hear half of that.
I was just asking, how do you think it could be negatively impactful on the position and the commission in the future?
Because genuinely, a lot of the commission has to do, half of the work we deal with is on a strict timeline, requires very deep understanding, requires these extreme details. Us not being able to vote on the things that just change our entire position with one word is kind of important. For example, I'm just going to use am I allowed to speak about something that was postponed?
I guess, yeah.
Okay, I just want to be certain. But for Borges's bill that recently got postponed, I was one of the major people discussing that bill, and was we need to postpone this if possible because this doesn't feel certain. The commission is not ready for something like this unless it gets heavily reworded. Just other bills like that. The commission, I represent the entire commission with my vote. I make sure that we are actually able to sustain whatever ENA is proposing, and my vote reflects that a belief and that opinion. Losing that vote basically makes it so that ENA or the Senate, ENA as a whole could just decide that we have double the amount of work without ever consulting me, because it is entirely optional for them to consult me. This method at least confirms that the supervisor has at least seen it. Does that answer your question?
All right. Do we still have questions? Okay. We're on the amendments. Just remember, Varela.
May I direct a question towards Supervisor Lexington Brown?
You may.
So how exactly would not having the ability to vote on the statutes affect your knowledge of the statutes from attending ENA?
So the attendance of ENA within Title VI is completely optional aside from the meeting during voting week, the week prior, and the week following. And I believe also, then there's also just one per semester in general. Us attending, me attending has honestly been a courtesy / a attempt to make sure that this voting privilege has not gone underused. I think this might be a little off topic slightly, but I think it's an important distinction to note that GAP Polera really only affects day at the Capitol for the GAP committee. We have an entire month of elections and events and entire positions that if a single statute is changed, I have to update my commission immediately or within 24 hours because a new timeline has shifted. Being aware of that is extremely important. And because I'm a voting member of ENA, I'm encouraged and kind of forced to be aware of that because it's no longer the chair asking us to be there. It's we need to be there to represent the commission on a proper level. Because this also gives us debating rights. Without this original bill, we did not have debating rights.
All right, is there a motion for 3 minutes remaining in questioning?
I object.
Okay. All right, remember we're still in questioning, so let's just try to keep questions and answers concise as possible. Varela, did you have a follow-up? You may.
Yeah, so as part of this bill as ex officio seat, you would still be required to go. So would you say that not having a voting privilege would dissuade the supervisor elections in the future to go?
100%. Because I know myself, I would still go, but I cannot guarantee a future supervisor would care enough to go. I know I can't for sure say with absolute certainty, but multiple other supervisors in the past definitely did not attend every ENA meeting like I have. And that's because I have been representing the commission every time with my vote.
Okay, Colazo.
Move to debate.
There's been a motion to move to debate. Are there any objections? All right, seeing none, we're now in debate on the amendments. Remember, let's try to keep debate as concise as possible. We still have to see the bill and everything after it. I'll do Gumarov, Gaudio, Varela.
I'm only going to do a point of information. We change things all the time that affect other positions in all kinds of different branches. We always try to get their insight, but like I said, we change things that, change things with judicial and executive and everything else and here under the sun. So.
Gaudio.
I am in staunch opposition to these amendments. While I do agree with the idea of granting an ex officio seat to the Day at the Capitol coordinator, the additional outline of the Day at the Capitol coordinator shall be required upon request to give regular reports to the GAP committee essentially says that they are required to show up at the whim of the committee, which even the supervisor of elections to ENA is not subject. Why are you using it? Okay. Regardless, in addition, I see this as in infringement upon the executive because the supervisor of elections and the election commissions are a creation of Title VI at the end of the day, whereas the executive is explicitly outlined within the Constitution. And by forcing them to show up to a committee and give reports, while we do make the executive give reports at Senates, the coordinator might not necessarily be able to show up to the committee, or they have other more pressing matters they might have to attend to, because if the president really wanted it, he could designate the coordinator position to say the attorney general, the comptroller. Obviously, these are theoreticals that are unlikely to happen, but we still have to take these into consideration.
Varela.
Yeah, I think there are two parts of this bill that are important. The first part is the Day of the Capitol coordinator, and then the supervisor elections part. To speak on the Day of the Capitol coordinator, as vice chair of GAP, this semester the current Day of the Capitol coordinator has attended GAP twice out of 8 meetings or something like that, which is not conducive to success. It is actually statutorily required for GAP and the GAC to collaborate on Day of the Capitol, and that cannot be effectively done unless the GAC is actually showing up to the GAP committees, because there are numerous questions that me and Chair Vasquez can't answer because we're just not party to it, right? Furthermore, I think doing the announcements for the GAC is extremely important because, as we saw today in open forum, sometimes government stuff happens and we're just not informed, right? I think that's most likely because there's no great forum to inform the GAP committee. So it is just important for the GAC to actually go to the GAP committee to inform us of stuff that's happening in government, because we also represent the student body in terms of government interests. And it is a little bit undermining our power to affect government proceedings if the GAC is doing all these things with government without our knowledge.
All right, remember we're debating on the amendment. Richmond, Lazo, Rickett.
Sorry, I'm a little slow. I completely disagree that for collaboration to happen, they have to attend the meetings. I think class happens. There are so many different things that could interfere with this. We don't see this in the Attorney General. I know it was brought up that legislative matters. I remember last session, AG Moore showed up to almost every single LJR meeting and gave really insightful information that I think would honestly be helpful this session, because it really helped my knowledge on the bill, especially when verbiage kind of became an issue, and really giving us the insight that we needed. Further, just the lack of communication this session, I don't think should impact sessions to come. I think we should use this more as how can we continue to better our body through maybe emailing, talking before we just write a piece of legislation. This has already been happening. Also, in regard to the vote, I think if they're going to be there, they should be able to vote on what's relevant to them. I remember last year, GAC Martin, she voted on the day at the Capitol stuff because that was directly relevant to her work. So if you have to be there, you should get a vote if it's relevant to what you're doing.
Lazo.
So to further clarify that, the reason why GAC Martin voted on the day of the Capitol stuff is because it's a statutory requirement and therefore they kind of have to. That is the only thing mentioned for them to be having voting rights for. Furthermore, though, having them as a permanent ex officio member has them working with that.
Sorry, that's not true. I know what you were trying to say. They are required to attend the meeting that the advocacy agenda is passed by the GAP committee, but they are not. There's nowhere that states that they vote. So the vote that happened last year technically was incorrect, because it's never statutorily required that ever had happened. So.
Yeah, and that kind of feeds to what I was also going to say, where the current state where they're on or where they were on the agenda, that was a professional courtesy that shouldn't have existed. And that was a bygone thing of last year's GAP and GAP relationship. I think having them as a permanent ex officio member is going to help heal that and make it more further legislated into what we currently have. But as was previously mentioned, giving them that voting right isn't something that we should be doing because it's our inherent power and our inherent right as a legislative branch. Having them as a permanent ex officio member, however, still has them allow them to be collaborative and be informed on the thing that we're working and basically doing the work for when it comes to the day at the Capitol. So having them as a permanent ex officio member is basically the best balance that we can get. And I highly encourage you to vote in favor of these amendments.
Rickett.
I will not be voting in favor of any of these amendments. I believe every single person in this room that's been a senator is part of the legislative branch, and we are supposed to be legislating for the students of our student body here at the University of Central Florida. We have autonomy, and we make the rules and we write the bills. If we're having other members of other branches come in and vote and have a say, and we're literally deferring to them every single time, it's literally delegitimizing our autonomy of our branch. And I don't believe we should be doing that at all. If we need to communicate to other members of the executive branch, of judicial, of the election commission, there's other channels. We can message them on Teams, we can do their emails, we can do face-to-face, but having them show up every single time and making it a requirement and deferring to them to ask for questions, that's completely unnecessary and it's completely inappropriate. Thank you.
Lazo, Collazo, Alcuda.
I just wanted to offer a point of information. That's not what this bill is trying to do. We're actually trying to not give them those voting rights. And as it stands, there's nothing really doing or giving them any power or giving the GAC any power that allows them to have voting rights or legislative rights as you're trying to kind of argue for. And I understand where that confusion may come from. I just think for everyone's sake and for understanding's sake, that's not what this bill is doing. This bill is legislating what's already being done in like an action and what we daily do that isn't even supposed to be legislated. This is just basically aligning it so that we're not in non-compliance and that we're not doing something that's wrong.
Collazo.
just to say that Deputy Lazo is correct in stating that. But as the author of like half of these amendments, I just wanted to say additionally, I think we're confusing a little bit with a privilege versus a right. When it comes to allowing a non-legislator to vote, that's a privilege, right? Because it is our right as a legislator given by the Constitution to pass amendments. It's our vote that is guaranteed by the Constitution. In regards to, allowing a non-legislator to vote, that's a privilege, right? And like I've stated in LJR, I don't think that non-legislators should be voting when that is not their constitutionally given right. I think the appropriate remedies here is ex officio seats. Ex officio seats, by definition, by the statutes, do not have debating rights, do not have voting rights. And of course, by motion, a non-committee member may speak. That's only if that motion is objected. And I, for one, will admit that multiple times that we've had non-members in LJR, I have objected to them speaking every single time. Because they are non-legislators. And while we appreciate their opinions, those conversations could have been had afterwards. Additionally, it is something that is very basic in essentially providing oversight over cabinet members or other branches here in in government. So I don't find upon request of the GAP committee to the Day of the Capitol coordinator to provide a report. I think it's essential that they come in upon request to give a report. And I think the key word here is upon request. It's not saying that they have to come every single GAP meeting. It's upon request. I think the GAP committee should be given a report based on the current planning of Day at the Capitol, in the same way that we just passed a bill that allows for the Attorney General to receive LJR and ENA minutes, and the same courtesy that we extend to the Comptroller for fiscal committee minutes to be distributed to them. We're just asking for the same thing to be reciprocated back to us. Got a little passionate there, but I do not think these amendments are unreasonable. I think granting them ex officio is a privilege. Right? Because, we're allowing them a seat at the table. We're allowing them to, provide input when asked to. And I think we're getting a little bit confused about the ex officio seats. They don't have debating rights and they don't have voting rights here. The only time the ex officio seats do, it's for caucuses because it's clearly outlined in statutes that they do. And another example is the the Student Government Executive Committee, where there are ex officio seats, but those are not granted. They don't have granted debating or voting rights. Additionally, that same committee can request reports from the Attorney General and the Comptroller. So I don't think any of these are unprecedented.
Okuda.
Yeah, D-Leg Colazo basically touched on every single point that I was going to mention, but I just want to reiterate the fact that Day at the Capitol is one of the only opportunities we have to really interact and advocate with our direct counterparts in the actual government. And it is such an important event. And being in the committee myself, I think receiving that transparency from Day at the Capitol coordinator is really just necessary. And particularly for me, I think it's very important that they do give those reports to the GAP committee to ensure the most efficient communication to all members and not just the chair. So I will be voting strongly in favor of these amendments, and I encourage you all to do the same as well.
All right, Banesh.
Move to vote.
There's been a motion to
I object.
Okay, do you withdraw? Okay. Gaudio, Gumrov.
So I've done a little extra digging, and if you would consult Title 6, Section 601.2p, concerning the duties and responsibilities of the supervisor of elections, it states that they shall attend elections and appointments committee meetings upon the request of the elections appointments committee chair. Great, fine. That's similar to what we have in front of us. However, the subsection states that they must provide the committee chair must provide a minimum of 1 week's notice to the supervisor of elections prior to the requested committee attendance. Notably, this subsection is not present on here, and so it just leaves it vague as to 5 minutes before the meeting or during the middle of the meeting, the committee could decide, hey, we want you to show up. And if the day the capital coordinator is in the middle of something, then, oh, whoops, stinks to stinks. In addition, I believe that the jobs of the day at the capital coordinator is not subservient to the GAP committee in the same way that the supervisor of elections is subservient to the ENA committee, because ENA is over Title VI. And so I think that the requirement to give just regular reports at the whim of the committee is a bit silly, and I move to see my amendment.
Act.
Yeah, we're in the middle of another amendment, so. You can, okay, yeah, there's been a motion to see Vice Chair Gaudio's amendment. Within the amendment, are there any objections?
I object.
Do you withdraw?
No.
Okay. The objection first, so you have 2 minutes.
I just think it's a superfluous. I think it's overreaching what is and isn't, or what's defined as a silly response. I don't know. It's just, this amendment makes no sense to me. I'm going to be for real. Makes no sense. I don't think it adds anything. I don't think it's helpful to the body. That's just my opinion.
2 minutes whenever you're ready.
I believe that this amendment does, in fact, add something to the bill by not requiring the coordinator to show up to a committee meeting. And also, we are not debating on the amendment itself, but whether or not we are even going to see it. So even if this body does not like the amendment, we
Decorum.
should still
Not you.
see the amendment.
All right, we're now on a 5-minute period of debate. Courts, Gumra, Varela.
I don't think we should see the amendment within the amendment because I don't agree with seeing an amendment within an amendment.
What did I say? Gumra.
Yeah, we're seeing an amendment of a bill that's been amended that didn't pass committee. I really think that we should send this back to committee because it's clearly full of holes that we're fighting over different words and what and statutes and this and that. So I would really encourage us all to please think about sending it back so we can fix it up, not all here tonight right now.
Varela.
Yeah, I agree with Chair Courts. I think if Senator Gaudio wants to see the amendment, we should wait till we see if the Chair Vasquez amendment even passes, because it's just a lot of wasted time debating over these 5 words of the amendment that might not even pass in the first place because it wasn't it's not exactly guaranteed. It's a very controversial amendment. So let's just hold our horses a little bit and get to each amendment one by one. It's much more efficient, I think.
Okay, Johnson.
May I retain? No. Okay. Yeah, we should pass or not pass the very first amendment first before we amend the amendment.
Collazo.
It's an amendment on top of my amendment. So one, I don't see it as friendly, right? So I don't know why we're even acknowledging the amendment. So yeah, I don't think we should be seeing the amendment. I don't think we should be voting for the amendment.
Brody.
I just really quickly want to address amending an amendment is a perfectly valid Robert's Rules thing that can be done. You cannot amend an amendment to an amendment, but you can amend an amendment. That is very valid and happens all the time.
Joliker.
Move to vote.
There's been a motion to vote. Are there any objections? All right, seeing none, we're now on voting procedures. The objection is Lazo. That means we are not going to see the amendment. The motion is no. That's Gaudio. That means we will see the amendment. All right, with a vote count of 23 to 14 to 0, the objection holds. We are not seeing the amendment. All right, we're still in a period of debate on the original amendment. So let's please be concise and let's think about what Senator Gumarov said about maybe if we're at a point where we should send it back. Courts.
Motion to remand this back to LJR.
Object.
I'm not fighting it. I withdraw.
Okay. Gumarov.
Motion to send this back.
I object.
I do not withdraw.
Okay. 2-minute objection.
So normally in an instant, yeah, right. I would be in favor of sending it back. However, internal legislation is our only business. Also, it is our duties as senator to know what the legislation on the floor is going to be. And these amendments have been on here for like at least a day now. I think I don't see the reason why to send it back to see LJR, back to see it to LJR, seeing as it didn't pass in LJR. So I think these are the voices that matter, right? I think that we should all be included in this conversation. I think we should just let the amendments go up for a vote. Just let it happen. If they fail, they fail, and if they don't, they don't, and then we move on. I think we're getting stuck on semantics here. Let's just vote, and if it passes, it passes.
Yeah. So we've spent about an hour, if not almost an hour and a half, on this one bill. The issue I have with it is, yeah, we only have internal legislation. We have 4 other things to see. And clearly, so this didn't pass in LJR. It didn't pass because it was inherently very different than what we're seeing right now. A lot of amendments were being added. So typically when that happens, like, I would like for it to be sent through committee again, because the committee, like, the whole reason they didn't pass in the first place is because something was clearly wrong with it. Now that you've changed the entire thing, that's great. But now they need to go see it because clearly we're workshopping a bunch of ideas on it. We've already spent 45 minutes on just the amendment. We haven't even talked about the bill in itself yet. So I just foresee this like all full of holes, and we're going to go with amendments and more this and more that. And we have 4 other things to see. And I do love this. And I would love us to workshop it to where it's perfect, but that's not going to happen here tonight. That should happen in committee where it belongs.
All right, we're now in a 5-minute period of debate. I'll do courts, Ganesh, Reed.
Yeah, no, I agree with what Gumarov said. This was a very different bill when it came to LJR. And I think that it should go back to committee because we have had many different bills and many different amendments that have not passed because it changes what the bill stands for. And so, wait, I forgot. It should go back.
Ganesh.
Yeah, I agree with Chair Courts and Senator Gumarov. Like, guys, we've been workshopping this for almost an hour over some words, over some semantics. Y'all, it gotta go back. It gotta go back.
Reed.
I agree. I don't want to sound like a broken record. I think we shouldn't be passing or voting on anything unless we're absolutely 100% sure that this is what we want to move forward. So I think we should send it back. And with that, move to vote.
There's been a motion to vote on the objection. Are there any objections? Do you withdraw?
Wait. No, during objections, every objection stands.
During objections, every object. Okay, so never mind. You can't withdraw. So, okay, we're still in a period of debate. Thank you. Collazo.
I don't think we should be sending this back. I guarantee you we're going to send it back and all the amendments are going to be approved in some way, shape, or form. Like, we're literally wasting time by sending it back for another week. The amendments are going to be approved in LJR. And I will like to restate that, as Chair Basquiat stated in her speech, these amendments are based on LJR's critiques, which were my critiques. I was heavy against this bill. And based on her revisions and based on my sentiments shared, these are the exact amendments that were needed for me to vote in favor of this bill. So we're all legislators here. We all can amend, we all can pass bills. I get the sentiment to send it back to LJR and a smaller group of people, but like, we're all responsible for legislation, all of us. So if we can have a simple open dialogue and open conversation over one bill, mind you, the next 2 things are Senate rule changes and then 2 proclamations, and proclamations only take about like 5 minutes each every single time. So we have enough time to sit here and discuss this. Like I've stated already, let's just vote and see what happens. I mean, we're wasting a lot of time here just for it to be sent back to LJR, and LJR votes on the amendments when we're just going to see those amendments again on the floor when they get approved by LJR. So I just think we're doing a lot of back and forth when we should just be voting on the amendments. And if they fail, they fail, and then we move on.
Hamid,
Move to vote.
there's been a motion to vote. Are there any objections? All right, seeing none, the objection is Collazo. So that means you won't re-remand. We'll see it tonight. And then the motion is no, that's Gumrov. That means it will be re-remanded. So yes, we see it, no re-remand. All right, with a vote count of 14 to 23 to 0, the objection fails. Internal Bill 5638 is re-remanded to LJR. All right. Resolution 5616, updates to Senate Rule 4, caucus report update. Vice Chair Gaudio, you have 5 minutes whenever you're ready.
Give me 1 second. I have to pull it up. Hang on. Alrighty. 5616. Here we go. Hello, everybody. So this is a bit of a change to the Senate agenda. So we have many fine and wonderful caucuses, including the ICTC caucus, which we love and are moving to make a permanent caucus. And we have many more ad hoc caucuses that I foresee becoming permanent caucuses. One small problem, that is a lot of reports to go through that could take up to 5 minutes each. And with caucuses no longer being under the purview of the Senate, I don't think it's really pertinent that we get a full report from every single caucus at every single meeting. That can take up a fair bit of time. And so I believe that it would be just as efficient to have a caucus forum in which caucuses that wish to speak about themselves may, but do not have to give a report. So I yield the rest of my time.
I yield the chair to Pro Temp Morrison.
Okay, we're now in a period of questioning. I'll go Reed, Shen, and Johnson.
Yeah, so just kind of a general question. Do you believe that caucuses, when they are giving the reports, have the option to kind of opt out of that forum already?
Could you elaborate on that question a little further?
Yeah, so when caucuses maybe don't have anything to say, they usually put like not applicable or NA or none. In that sentiment, do you believe that they can continue to do so without creating a caucus forum, essentially?
I mean, that is one way of seeing it, but by having a dedicated section for a report from a caucus, what it can do is it can create this look or expectation that they are supposed to be giving a report every week, that they should be giving a report every week, and they should really only not be giving a report if they haven't done anything that week. Whereas with a forum, it is more open, it is more, they can just discuss what they feel is pertinent to be discussed.
Shen.
If your argument against seeing these caucus reports is that they're now not under the peer review of Senate, could you not say the same thing for like the report from the judicial or the executive or the vice president?
So that is a phenomenal question, and so I'll go through it bit by bit. So the reports from the student body president and the vice president are very self-apparent in that they are the heads of the executive branch. They are responsible for all of the goings-ons of the executive branch, and so it is impertinent for our business that we know what they are doing. The attorney general and the comptroller are neutral cabinet positions, which, mind you, constitutionally cannot be removed by the president at whim. because they are important for every branch of student government. As for the rest of cabinet is not required to give a report. They have cabinet forum if they wish to speak. And so with these caucuses, it's a similar vein in that while the caucus, we should have that room for the caucuses to speak if they want to, I do not believe that it is really necessary for all of them to have a designated report space. Does that sufficiently answer your question? I feel like it's kind of an odd answer.
Yes, I understand what you're saying.
I yield the chair back to Senate President Pullman.
Johnson.
So if caucuses have a forum, what happens in the event that a caucus member or a caucus has something really important to say, right? And we run out of time like in a meeting.
I don't foresee that happening because the position of this in the agenda is exactly the same place that the current caucus reports would be.
All right. I'll do Hamid, Collazo, Lazo.
So did you talk to any caucus leadership before putting this resolution in?
I did not.
I did Collazo.
It was a more of a point of information to Gaudio's response to a question earlier about the requirements of who gives announcements and who doesn't give announcements during Senate.
Okay.
I just wanted to quickly clarify, additionally to add to that, that the student body president and the vice president, attorney general, comptroller are all required by statutes to do announcements, and the cabinet members are required to come at least once a month and give announcements as well. Caucuses do not have that requirement placed upon them in statutes.
Lazo.
Two, if I may, and a follow-up.
You may.
So the first one, do you sit on any caucuses?
No.
Do you have any? Well, no, never mind. You answered that. So the follow-up to that, what makes you then think that you understand on a leadership or on a caucus member level how important or what the necessitation of a caucus report or caucus forum is?
Simple fact of the matter is I do not, and that's why it is in front of this floor today. And you can change it, you can amend it. However, I do not believe that this steps on the ability of caucuses to speak at a report. In essence, all it does is make things more timely, particularly for caucuses that may not want to speak necessarily.
Go ahead.
So again, for caucuses that do not want to speak, why isn't the current system where they can just say none or just be skipped not already saving enough time for us?
Because with the way it is currently structured, there is an expectation that they give that report. There's an expectation that they do have something to say, and they could be questioned if they don't have anything to say.
Okay. Smith, Alcuda, Rickett.
Okay, to my knowledge of how I'm reading this, the intention of this is to make it more timely. So would the cabinet forum have some type of time limit to ensure that, or would it just be the same thing if all the caucuses had something to say still?
Could you elaborate a little further on that question?
So yeah, so you say you want this to be, in order to make it more timely, to have a caucus forum, but if all the caucuses still have something to say and present to the Senate, as they usually do, it would take the same amount of time. So are you proposing a time limit on this caucus forum or something? Is what I'm confused about.
Well, in theory, technically, this, as it stands, there is no time limit within the current language of the bill. Under the current reports, there's a maximum, time limit of 5 minutes per caucus. And so if we wanted to put a time limit on it, then we could. But as it stands, that is not in the current language of the bill.
Okuda.
So seeing as though we are senators that collectively represent basically the entirety of the very diverse population here at UCF, do you not find value in hearing reports from every caucus and these identities that are usually pretty underrepresented on campus?
For one, I believe that is a leading question, but I would like to answer that. If I believed that, I would have.
Decorum.
Two.
Decorum to Senator Gaudio.
I'm not, we'll just keep going, but that one seemed fine to me, but you can keep going.
I lost my train of thought now. You know what? I'm not going to answer that question, actually.
Rickett.
What I believe the senator is trying to do is trying to streamline the process and trying to save time so we're not here in Senate sessions for 4 to 5 hours. Obviously, through Robert's Rules of Orders, we can amend the agenda in any way we see fit. We can strike minutes, we can strike bills from being seen, we can do a whole lot of things. But what he's trying to do is trying to streamline the process and condense the amount of time a lot of people are talking. Yes, caucus information
Point of
is.
order, aren't we in questioning, not debate?
We're in questioning, yeah.
Oh, sorry. Move to go to debate.
There's been a motion to move to debate. Are there any objections? All right, seeing none, we're now in debate. Would you like to debate?
Yeah, please.
Okay, so I'll
thank
do
you.
Rickett, Varela, Joliker.
Yeah, my apologies. Yeah, but I basically understand what he's trying to do. He's basically trying to streamline the process through Robert's Rules of Order. Yes, we can change the agenda, and yes, caucus information and caucus reports are very important. However, we could, as senators, just email each other the updates if people decided to answer emails. Unfortunately, that doesn't happen all the time, and I'm not pointing any fingers. However, I understand what he's trying to do. The senator is trying to streamline the process. And if we do go forward with this bill, we can all collectively make an agreement on how much time, if we do go forward with it, of how much open forum caucus time there is. Thank you.
Varela.
Yeah, I'm going to be speaking as a caucus chair. I find that the caucus form or the current setup of the caucus form is low-key kind of the same thing, not much change at the point anyway. But I think having like a specific section for the caucus to put down what they did is really important because one, we need to be knowing what the caucus are doing and if they're not doing anything too. I think that should be pointed out. I think that we should be encouraging caucuses to give their reports. I know it's extremely important for me to say what I'm doing, to even just advertise what my caucus does. I know I've had senators reach out to me wanting to get involved in the caucus through these reports. I know I've had senators who have asked me questions who aren't in caucus leadership or in the caucus in general about things I'm doing. So it's really, really, really important to the caucuses, what we do in the growth of our caucuses to have this dedicated place to put our announcements. And I think just relegating it to a caucus form, I think that dissuades caucuses from, making reports when there's, unless there's something amazing happening, which I don't think we should be doing. I think even if it's mundane, we should still be getting reports on what every caucus is doing, especially because we do have the power to get rid of them and make them. So I think we should be getting regular updates on that.
Joliker.
I'm going to be adding on to what Senator Rickett and Chair Gaudio mentioned earlier, and this was briefly discussed in LJR during the last session. To add on to what Senator Rickett was saying, I fully agree with it. I am sensing there's some tension growing here, of especially caucus chairs and people that are heavily involved in the caucuses feeling like their voices are being silenced and that this is some sort of hostile action being taken against them. That is not what the case is whatsoever. This is, as has already been stated, purely an effort to streamline this process, make it more efficient so that we're not here as long. Everyone still has the ability to speak as much as they are wanting to, and clearly as we do in this Senate body. So there is no muting, there is no silence being placed upon anybody. This is merely an efficiency administrative effort, and frankly, I don't understand what all the big fuss is about. And with that, I yield.
All right.
May I make a point of order?
You may.
So the caucus system that we've had has been the same caucus system for doing reports in the past time. So I think for the sake of the argument that this is going to be a not cost cutting, a time cutting effort, that's just false because we were getting out at 9-10 p.m. last semester with the same caucus system. So while I understand that, that is not at all related to the time issue. Just for further clarification, since I know that we have some new senators that may not have known what the previous caucus system was.
Okay. There's a lot of hands left, and we only have a bit left in debate. So I'm gonna ask everyone for their debate to be as concise as possible. Morissette, Banesh, Reed.
May I direct two questions to Vice Chair Gaudio?
You may.
Do you see this having an impact, especially since now, since caucuses are not a part of Senate, with non-senators being chairs and having to come to Senate to do their announcements, if that makes sense?
I don't quite follow. Could you reiterate?
Yeah. So, like, for example, like Women's Caucus or Black Caucus, if those chairs are non-senators, and let's just say, especially now, so they can be executive directors in the OSI agencies, and they can't come to Senate to do their announcements, who would then be the directed person to do their announcements within caucus forum?
Presumably, they could designate a person as an example for, say, cabinet forum. If a cabinet member is to give announcements during cabinet forum, but they themselves cannot show up, they typically have someone speak in their stead. In this case, it's in the cabinet's case, usually student body president or someone along those lines. But for this case, it could presumably be anyone in the caucus.
Actually, it's not a question, but more so a piece of debate for the body. I know since I believe we passed the legislation for the caucus executive committee. So if cabinet forum isn't favorable, if like something like, the caucus chair of the caucus executive committee giving those announcements instead to still streamline it the way that is intended by Vice Chair Gaudio, but not having it be cabinet forum. So I think in that aspect too, if it's just certain chairs that have announcements and other chairs don't, it's still just those chairs that are giving announcements given by that one person rather than giving it by, like 8 to 9 different people.
Banesh.
I'm kind of on the fence about this one too. As a caucus chair, like I'm one of those caucus chairs that has the least amount to say, like, LGBTQ people aren't really a majority or anything, but I still feel like even if you have nothing to say, it's important to kind of like, just put that out there. People could come up to you after the meeting and kind of, give you something to think about, give you something to work on. So I feel as though a caucus forum, I don't know, I'm kind of iffy on it, but I do see what Vice Chair Gaudio wanted to do, you know what I'm saying? Like trying to shorten down the meetings and whatnot. But I really don't think that what we have right now wastes any time per se or adds any more time. I'm still deciding how I feel about this.
Reed.
Yeah, I would like to draw everyone's attention to our caucus reports from earlier today, in which the Sustainability Ad Hoc Caucus had none written under it because we had nothing to say today. And I believe that's the sentiment that many caucuses share. When they really have nothing to say, they just don't say anything. So I don't feel the need to really push for any type of caucus forum because I believe it is important as a body to learn what each and every one of us is working on. And I think it is important to stay connected in that sense as a body. I personally enjoy hearing what all the caucuses have going on. And I think it's crucial to continue with these reports because it's important to know what we're all working on. And without these reports, I wouldn't know about half the things that are going on in these caucuses. So I don't think we should be taking this away. And I honestly don't believe that the caucus reports as a whole are taking up that much time and aren't taking up as much time as we really think. I understand that we do stay here for a long time, but we signed up for that as senators. And I believe that we should continue to listen to what the caucuses have to say and to continue to treat each other with our full attention and our full respect in those caucus reports. And yeah, continue to make these sort of a mandatory thing. And if you have nothing to say, just don't say anything.
Ruben.
Sorry, I won't take up too much of your time, but while your eyes are on today's reports, I want to point out that with each individual caucus having a chance to speak, their email is provided there as well as the name of the chair in case people don't know. I think that it's important to keep it like that because it will remind people if they need to contact one of those caucus chairs or if they need to know who the chair is to reach out to them. So even if they don't have anything to say, it still reminds you that the caucus exists and who would be the point of contact for that. So I think that's a really important thing to point out.
Gumrov, Collazo, Shen.
Oh, my arm hurts. Yeah, I'm not going to speak to any other reason besides logistical reason. As a vice chair, you know, I can sit here and say it's important and yada, yada, yada. Speaking logistically, we do not spend more than 5 minutes on caucus reports. Like, we are here until midnight. We see how many committee reports, how many exec reports, how many bills and stuff. I understand the point of wanting to cut time. We're not cutting no time by doing this. I absolutely promise you. So.
Collazo, I think we have about a minute remaining in debate.
Okay. Well, as a chair who used to be a non-senator, if I wasn't present, Vice Chair Karingo would give my announcements when I used to be a justice, because he would be present. Just wanted to throw that out there. Additionally, move to see my amendments.
There's been a motion to see DLive Collazo's amendments. Are there any objections? All right, seeing none, whenever you're ready.
Hello. So, the removing of Internal Bill 5635 and 5618, I feel as though I erred on my advice to LJR to include them because those two would include the intercampus and transfer caucus, right? And the intention of this is to remove them from the business. So it shouldn't be on the enactment of those things because it's trying to remove essentially what those bills are putting on. So it shouldn't be based on that. Additionally, I think the more grammatically correct thing is to, if we were to just do forum, student government caucuses forum, because it's going to be plural in this instance instead of individually listed. And yeah, if I'm not mistaken, someone correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah, I yield.
All right, we're in line for questioning. Morset, Gumrov.
Move to debate.
There's been a motion to move to debate. Are there any objections? All right, seeing none, we're now in debate. Joliker.
Move to vote.
There's been a motion to vote. Are there any objections? All right, seeing none, we're now in voting procedures on the amendments. All right, with the vote count of 34 to 0 to 0, the amendments pass. We have about 30 seconds remaining, so I'll take a motion. Collazo.
May I retain?
You may.
As I just wanted to provide opposing view before I move to vote. But like as the Military and Veterans Caucus chair, I don't see anything wrong with just like removing it. Even if it was just forum, Brody adds in cabinet members' emails and contact information when they're here for a cabinet forum. So their email is going to be automatically put there if they have announcements. And with that, I move to vote.
There's been a motion to vote on resolution 5616. Are there any objections? All right, seeing none, we're now on voting procedures. All right, with the vote count of 14 to 21 to 0, resolution 5616 does not pass on second reading. All right, resolution 5617, updates to Senate Rule 2, duties and responsibilities of the GAP Committee. Chair Vasquez, you have 5 minutes whenever you're ready.
Sorry, give me 2 seconds.
Five minutes whenever you're ready.
Thank you for buying me time, Owen. The purpose of this resolution is kind of calling back to something that Senator Wanjan had pointed out a couple meetings ago in terms of the timeline that GAP is held to when introducing legislation about the resolutions that we're going to be seeing in accordance with our advocacy agenda. So this is just giving us more of an ample timeline to meet the requirement. I think that we should be taking as much time to do as much research as we can. We did a lot of surveying this year, and we've waited until after the deadline to submit legislation in the Florida session, which just happened to be this past Monday. So I think that's kind of what we should be doing for years to come. Originally, I wrote it as 10 academic days, but I'm amenable to it being 15. But yeah, I yield my time to questioning.
All right, we're now online for questioning. Banesh.
Move to debate.
There's been a motion to move to debate. Are there any objections? All right, seeing none, we're now in debate. Colazo.
I will be voting in favor. I think it's, given the legislative session here in Florida, I don't think 60 days is reasonable to be placed on the GAP committee, because it's just not, they're not going to know any legislation that's on the floor 60 days prior. So I encourage you all to vote in favor. And with that, I move to vote.
There's been a motion to vote. Are there any objections? All right, seeing none, we're now in voting procedures. All right, with a vote count of 35 to 0, Resolution 5617 passes on second reading. All right. Proclamation 5637, proclamation recognizing March 21st, 2025 as Niara's Nirami. Senator Muratov, you have 5 minutes whenever you're ready.
Hello, guys. Just want to say a quick note. This is my first bill, and it is a proclamation. I mean, first as a senator. And so let me begin. I want to proclaim that in March 21st of this year, a Kazakh community would be celebrating a Nowruz. Merami means a celebration. So I just decided to include that as well. It's celebration in Kazakh language. And so Nowruz is a holiday of spring renewal in Kazakhstan. And it first arose among the people of East Kazakhstan, and is among one of the most ancient holidays being celebrated for more than 5,000 years. And so, therefore, it's not religious, because it was long before the religion established in the Kazakhstan. So, according to the Eastern calendar, Nowruz is the beginning of the new year, coinciding with the day of the spring equinox. And for the Kazakh, this holiday is symbol of spring renewal, the triumph of love, fertility, and friendship. And so in the old days before the arrival of Nowruz, so like a new year, people put their homes and households in order, planted trees and flowers in honor of the holiday. And so the roughly translated to the new day in Persian. Here's my little amendment. So it basically means that it was believed that Nowruz entered a clean home tended by a kind-hearted host, the household would be spared from illness, misfortune, and hardship. And so, quick note is that this, original celebration is not necessarily only a thing for Kazakh people and or Kazakhstani. It's actually very broad, known, and celebrated celebration. It's celebrated from Turkey to Iran to any other, actually almost all of the Central Asia countries. The reason I didn't include in this bill, though, is that there's some differences. Some people call this celebration slightly differently, but the main idea of like that New Year is stay the same from community to community. And so with that, I would yield my time. Thank you for listening. Oh, wait, sorry.
Go ahead.
Before questioning, I would like to motion to see my amendment.
We'll do that in debate.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
All right, we're now in line for questioning. Ganesh.
Do you know of any like events on campus that might be going on that might coincide with this?
Speaking of events or RSOs, as we talk, so there's the most closest is Turkish Student Association and Russian American Student Association. I mean, not necessarily, but the problem with that, there's no RSOs that are associated with Central Asia, and the closest would be like Turkish, and but that would be pretty much it. So therefore, we're really lacking of a representation of Central Asia people and their culture, and so this is the gap I want to close as being a student and senator in UCF.
All right. Any further questions? Trejo Hernandez.
I have a small question. There's like an extra space after like this copy of this proposition is to be sent to. Is that like a technical? If I fix it, it's like considered technicality.
Can you say that again? I'm sorry.
Like there's an extra space. Brody fixed it. Thank you, Brody.
Okay, perfect. All right. I'll take a motion. Gumrov.
Move to debate.
There's been a motion to move to debate. Are there any objections? All right, seeing none, we're now in debate. Varela, Banesh, Morozov.
Yeah, I'll be voting in favor. I think me and Shin actually just looked at pictures of the traditional celebrations, and they're really lively, really jubilant. So, I'm always down to learn more about cultures I don't know about. I think it's really important here as student representatives that we represent everybody. We understand every culture we can. So I'm really happy that Senator Morozov decided to bring this proclamation, and I will gladly be voting yes.
Is it Banesh?
Yeah, just like what Varela said, I'll be voting in favor as well. I do find it a little bit sad that we don't have any RSOs that kind of, are centered around Central Asia. So I find it kind of beneficial that we have this proclamation on the floor. So I encourage you guys to vote in favor.
Morozov.
Yeah, I'll be voting in favor of this. I just vote in favor of what Senator Morozov said, because I'm aware of the amount of Kazakhstani students we have on campus who are underrepresented. And as a Russian student myself, I've heard about this celebration, and I believe that would be a great addition to the UCF community.
All right. Any speaking against? All right, I'll take a motion. Morozov.
Motion to see my amendment.
Oh, that's right. There's been a motion to see Senator Morozov's amendment. Are there any objections? All right, seeing none, whenever you're ready.
Yes, so there's a small change in wording that were first discovered in the SBA meeting. Just the wording of the portion I crossed out is written weirdly, and so just want to clarify the portion where it says like the clean house, and that's it. Small change in wording to make it more clear, to make idea more clearly.
All right, we're now in line for questioning. Are there any questions? Reed.
Move to debate.
There's been a motion to move to debate. Are there any objections? All right, seeing none, we're now in debate. Trejo Hernandez.
Move to vote.
There's been a motion to vote. Are there any objections? All right, seeing none, we're now in voting procedures on the amendment. All right, 34 with a vote count of 34 to 0, the amendment passes. Banesh.
Move to vote.
There's been a motion to vote on Proclamation 5637. Are there any objections? All right, seeing none, we're now on voting procedures on the proclamations. All right, with a vote count of 32 to 1, Proclamation 5637 passes on second reading. All right, Proclamation 5638, Proclamation recognizing April 10th, 2025 as Dolores Huerta's Day. Chair Escobar, Lazo.
Hi, so as you all know, Chair Escobar cannot be here, so I will be doing it in his stead as I am the sponsor. And as you guys might have remembered, when we last saw the Cesar Chavez proclamation, I was the one that brought it up. So for those of you that don't know, Dolores Huerta was basically Cesar Chavez's right-hand man during the United Farm Workers unionization boycotts. She's basically, I want to say, the unspoken hero of that entire boycott and entire moment in history, because she did do a lot to build up Latino farm workers, to build up Cesar Chavez's movement, but she's unfortunately kind of been forgotten by history and by politics. And to this day, she still works for Latino rights, for women's rights, for advocating for people to be in politics when they are underrepresented and overlooked. So I think for us to pass a proclamation that basically honors her is a great way to start moving forward and recognizing people who have kind of been forgotten in history when they've done so much for where we are standing today. And with that, I yield the rest of my time.
All right, we're now online for questioning. Are there any questions? Varela.
Move to debate.
There's been a motion to move to debate. Are there any objections? All right, seeing none, we're now in debate. Anyone wishing to speak in debate? Banesh.
May I retain?
You may.
I find it pivotal that we talk about important women in history, especially during this time, you know what I'm saying? DEI getting attacked and all that and blah, 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 blah. Move to vote, yeah.
All right, there's been a motion to vote. Are there any objections? All right, seeing none, we're now in voting procedures. All right, with a vote count of 35 to 0, Proclamation 5638 passes on second reading. All right, Varela, Senate Forum, Varela.
Bro, yeah, I'm not sure if y'all remember, probably 12 hours ago, we had a discussion about the judicial review and something called an amicus brief that asked Chief Justice Rivera about, and he said that they're probably a thing. They are a thing. You just need to know how to do them. I just kind of let the body know what those are, because not all of us are super big legal nerds or in the political science. But basically, what an amicus brief is, it's kind of Latin for friend of the court brief. It just means that anyone who's not, a justice or a party in the case can submit an opinion or what they want to see from the court or how they interpret whatever's going on. So it's just a way for all of you, if you're passionate about what's going on, to say, I like this bill, so you should do it, or here's why it's constitutional, or again, if you're don't think it's constitutional, you can do the same. So I just want to let you all know that you all can have an impact on these proceedings, because I know there's some spirited debate when we were seeing it the first time, when we passed it and we overturned the veto. So I just want to let you all know that you can do that. And I would reach out to Chief Justice Rivera if you want to know how to file an amicus brief. I also encourage you to do it if you have something to say that you think will add value to the conversations.
Do you have something to add on to that? Okay, go ahead.
Do you know if they can be anonymous, or do they have to be explicitly stated who you are?
So as far as I know, they're only reviewed by the council. So I don't think they can be anonymous. You have to ask Chief Justice Rivera. I don't think it makes a difference either way, because it's not going to be public.
I can ask on behalf of anyone as well, if you do. Because if you ask, then they'd be like, okay, well, they want to submit a brief, so I can ask on behalf of anyone as well. Any questions about that, Rickett?
I have a question. It's my understanding that amicus curiae briefs are usually presented to members of the federal judiciary. Is there any precedent for given to make his career brief to members of the legislature?
So as I understand it, amicus briefs are used for judicial proceedings. Considering that we, as a legislative branch, don't do judicial proceedings, I would say no.
Claudio.
Hey, I just wanted to draw some emphasis to Title 309.5 that we are all required to have a working understanding of the Constitution, statutes, Senate rules, and Robert's Rules of Order. You know, I made a couple slip-ups myself this meeting. However, there was a bit of a sentiment earlier of people should be, understanding we're still learning. It's March. This session is almost done. Everyone in here should have an understanding of Robert's Rules of Order. And if you don't, there are books scattered throughout the office. There's one in the speaker's office. Is there one in the pro temp's office? There's one in the pro temp's office. There's one in the advisor's office. Chief Justice has a copy. You get the idea. So,
Banesh.
I'm gonna try and make this quick because I know y'all all want to go home, me included. Realism when it comes to appointments and confirmations. I was noticing today a lot of people had some kind of, I wouldn't say unrealistic per se, but just, I don't know, kind of pushy expectations when it came to our Sergeant Shen over here. I know y'all didn't come into Senate, well, some of y'all didn't come into Senate with full knowledge of everything. So why aren't we extending the same to people that we're appointing or confirming? Guys, I understand we weren't born yesterday, but people need time to adjust and get into the roles. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm a chair of a caucus. I'm a vice chair. I wasn't born with this knowledge. You know what I'm saying? So can we please try to extend some grace to people? Thank you.
Reed.
Hi, friends. I just want to say again, the College of Arts and Humanities and the RWC, we are friends. I had a great conversation with the head of the RWC as well as Shane, and there was no offense taken to what happened at the ANSF budget hearing. No feelings were hurt. Actually, was told that by the RWC head that, he enjoyed the questions that were asked. So I would appreciate if it was stopped being used as an example of decorum examples, because there was no offense taken. Also, the RWC head did like the questions, and we had a really, really great meeting the other day about it all. So yeah, that's all I have to say. We're friends, not foes.
We don't know if, since he's not here, I'll just read it out into the minutes though. Even though he's not here, because I would like to address it, but I'll just read it out. I find it upsetting that members of this body, specifically new senators, are given leftover SG polos not in our size to wear and have, while members of SGLC are given multiple shirts to have and not student government agents. I express this as I've noticed a general pattern towards new senators not being given adequate resources. Also, Earth Day advocacy was so much fun. Yeah, I'll respond to this and I will apologize, take full responsibility to the new senators. I'm sorry. I don't think it's not a secret. I ordered unisex sizing, and everyone's polos are really, really big on them. So that is my bad, and I apologize. And that is something I'm absolutely noting in my transition binder for next year, for the next speaker to not do that. So I do apologize for that. Also, with the turnover, our resources are kind of strapped. Once we have a senator and they leave, they keep their polo. So there's that. The polos that we do have, I think, are extra larges, which are, again, unisex sizing. So it's even bigger than a normal extra large. So my apologies on that. Again, it is something that I am definitely making sure the next speaker will not do. But yeah, I'm definitely sorry to any new senators who feel like they aren't being given adequate resources. That was not the intention at all. It was really just a mistake in ordering the sizing, and then with the turnover and things like that. With the SGLCers, it's just they were specifically specifically asked to give sizes at the beginning. I think exec ordered everyone's that asked me about SG shirts that we all have, exec ordered those with their budget. So yeah, that's that. Again, to any new senators, I apologize about that. Definitely do not mean to undermine your role here. But yeah, at the time, yeah, I just totally messed up on the sizes, so that's my bad. And we don't have Senate operations. We don't have the Senate operations to keep ordering every time we get new senators when there's new senators up until the election. So that's my bad. Definitely sorry. I will definitely be telling the new senator, the new speaker, to accommodate for that. My apologies to all the new senators again. All right, Dela Colazo.
Just wanted to reiterate, reviewing legislation before coming to Senate, please. And be considerate when motioning to remain things back, please, because LJR will now have 6 bills to see in committee. And the last time we had 6 bills, the meeting lasted 2 hours. I do also want to note that and particularly with this bill, I will reiterate again that I felt that we just didn't want to vote on the amendments and just send it to LJR so they can vote on the amendments. I didn't see that as a complete necessity, as we're going to see the bill again, so we might as well just approve the amendments ourselves. And like I said, I think it's better, instead of objecting to not seeing something or objecting to not seeing an amendment, just vote on the amendment. Because there was, I think there was a clear division in who wanted to vote for the amendment and who didn't. And I think that we should have just voted on it and then continued about our day. And yeah, and to the defense of, I just wanted to defend kind of Chair Vasquez. I mean, she amended the bill based on my, sentiments in LJR, and a lot of the LJR committee members agreed with my sentiment. So I don't necessarily know why it's being remanded back to LJR. But just keep that in mind. There's nothing wrong with it, right? You can remand it. That's totally, but now LJR will probably now have a 2-hour-long meeting. And hopefully we don't have to caucus next meeting.
Eli Richmond.
I think it's very easy to look at minuscule things negatively, but we have to remember why we're here, or even more, who we are here for, and that's the students. We're not here for shirts. So I think it's easy to nitpick, but I think when we realize the broader reason of why we're here or why we should be here, it really doesn't matter. I mean, as long as you're putting your best effort forward, that's what we're here to do, and that's what we need to be doing.
Gurov.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that we should not be scared to remand things, especially when it's clear that we're not going to reach a general consensus at this moment. And especially it happens all the time. I've been here for a year. I've been here the entire session. And I've seen so many times where bills are just changed completely from when they were seen in committee. And I've just seen common practice. We always send it back, just because when things are completely brand new to everybody on the floor, we've seen it. It gets into a big turmoil. There's amendments on words, on grammar, on this, and it's just not going to get anywhere tonight. So I really want to encourage even new senators, if you can see that we're on something for an hour, please, sometimes we all get super hopped up and we forget that's even an option. So if you can see that's an option to send it back, please, motion to do so.
Courts.
Yeah, I just wanted to echo Senator Grumarov, because I did also believe that it needed to be remanded back. Yes, we are expected to know the legislation that we're seeing and know about the amendments, but I do also think that it becomes a little bit of a different conversation when we're researching the statutes and seeing where these similar things are. That needs to be done in committee, because if we're adding and subtracting things from the bills to change their purpose to a bigger degree, the committee needs to see that. And also, I will put in my announcements, if we have a 2-hour-long LJR meeting, I'm going to be more, strict with the quorum. We're not used to having so many bills in general, so we'll see.
Shen.
Oh yeah, I just wanted to say I really appreciate your defense of me, Senator Banesh, but I did really honestly appreciate the comments, feedback that I received. I could have taken more time in overviewing the statutes, and it really was my responsibility to do that. I will say I had done that before. It's just been a pretty hard week for me. I've been very busy. It's also it's going to be 20. I don't know the exact year at this point because it's been stressing me out, but my mom's birthday was yesterday. My mom has been passed away for multiple years. I've looked at the statutes before. I'm not going to remember that. I'm not doing that great right now, to be completely honest. But that being said, it is my responsibility to know the statutes. But also, just to clarify, I know I had a private conversation with Senator Reed about it, but I was not referencing that the debate over the College of Humanities dean coming, the debate surrounding the conduct contributed towards him. I was referencing just the last administrative faculty I remember visiting in a hypothetical. I didn't want anyone to think I was targeting their conduct with him because I didn't think anything honestly went wrong with their conduct with him.
All right. Anyone else for Senate Forum? All right. Seeing none, Senate deliberations, none. Advisors report.
Hey everybody. I don't know that I have any strong announcements for you. Obviously, you're well aware the election is in full swing. So if I'm a little bit more scatterbrained over the next couple of weeks, that's why, because there's a lot going on. If you're curious, just look at Luke's schedule sometime. It's a crazy one. But yeah, so that'll be going on. So we'll be busy next week. But if you need anything, I'm around. Just reach out. I think I mentioned this last week, but there's been a lot going on with my family stuff. So if you need me and you don't see me, just shoot me a message. I may or may not get back to you, but if you need something and you don't hear from me, just send me another message and I will follow up. If for any reason that doesn't happen, follow up with Allison or follow up with Chantel. But I will do my best to kind of stay in communication when I can. But sometimes I'm just not going to be able to be here, and that's just the reality of that. But yeah, if you need anything, just let me know and I'll do my very best for you. Yeah, let's do some senator shout outs. Who's got some? All right, Jason.
Shout out SBA. I love SBA, and I like my vice chair, I guess. Vice Chair Vasquez, always the GOAT. Shout out to Senator Benwick. I know he's gonna say it later, so I won't spoil it. But he gave me such an amazing name. It like fits my aura so much. It's crazy. Shout out to LJR. I love sitting on the LJR. I wish I could join, but maybe in the future. But I love LJR. Such great work. And shout out to everyone. I feel like, guys, we're such a tight-knit family as senators. Like, guys, we're locked in. It's so exciting. But yeah, shout out everyone.
All right. Meritov?
Shout out to... Can I say?
Was that close?
What?
Did I say it right?
Yeah. Yeah, Muratov.
Great. That's all.
I want to say big shout out to Senator Rickett for believing in my proclamation and sponsoring it, and also helping a lot to clarify many things and make it sound professional and good.
All right, Ed Morzov.
I want to give a shout out to Senator Murtaugh for his first proclamation.
All right, got you.
Oh, well, we live, we laugh, we LJR. It's great. We love them. They're awesome. Benwick is amazing. We love Benwick. I have to not stress it too much this time. Julie, I stressed it too much. Sorry. Our new senator, he's amazing. Love him on the committee. He's great. And Dileg Colazo, he's also great. We love him. I love hearing what he has to say.
All right, Anna.
My goat Shun, of course. Also my goat Banesh, just because like you're always chilling. I don't know, but yeah. Also Gap Committee. I think we've really been killing it lately with our legislation and everything going on with Day at the Capitol. So yay, Gap Committee.
All right, Banesh.
Shout out ENA, shout out Black Caucus, shout out LGBTQ Caucus, shout out Corelli because he said one line today. He always quiet, so shout out Corelli and shout out myself because I'm the GOAT.
All right,
Dinah?
Danae.
Thank you.
Shout out to Benwick. He got a new haircut. It looks so good.
All right, Glaza.
I want to give a shout out to a visiting senator from Florida State University, Senator Holiday in the back. She is here, so shout out to her for attending today's Senate meeting.
All right, Kirsten.
Shout out to LJR. We've been working really, really hard. Shout out to Vasquez and Lazo. I don't know. I just love them. Okay, never mind. Delete that strike that from the record. And I don't know the ethicality of shouting out myself, but shout out to me because if you look at the Title IX update for the censure process, I was going through it. And shout out to Gaudio for the non-compliances part.
And you can definitely shout yourself out. We're all about it. Self-love.
Okay, perfect.
Benwick.
Okay, so I want to shout out everyone because I love you guys, but can we get a drum roll for Jason's new nickname, please? All right, 1, 2, 3. Jason Slaymead! Okay, that wasn't enough clapping. Can we clap again, please? Hype it up.
All right. Michael.
Shout out to Adam because I miss Adam, and also shout out to CRT because I also miss CRT because we've not met for maybe like 4 weeks now.
Crazy. Yep.
My sources tell me it's your birthday today, Brody. Is that true?
That is true.
Happy birthday, Brody.
Thank you.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Brody. Happy birthday to you.
Anyway, that's it. He's the GOAT. That's it.
Thank you very much. Yes, it is today. All right. Any more? Yeah, Andrea.
Shout out Gap because we are the best. Thanks, Anna. But I have to say I love everyone in that committee. They're all my friends. Shout out SBA. I guess I like my chair there. So whatever. He's pretty cool. Shout out just everyone. I love everyone here. I have a great time. Cameron for walking to Andrew's car with me, and then Andrew's car being empty with no tablecloth. Shout out Chris Crowley for making me laugh today. He gave me 5 big booms over DM, so that was pretty cool. And Brody, obviously, happy birthday. And Kirsten, because I love her, and Aljera is amazing.
All right, Kristen.
Shout out to Sergeant Shen for his new position as Sergeant at Arms.
Laurel?
Save the best for last. Shout out to Sergeant Chen. He is literally the best person I've ever sat by, and I sat by Allison last session, so that's really saying something. Oh, Speaker Pullman. See, I'm already. No, Cameron? I meant Senator Renda. You see how I need to decorum you. Talking out of turn. Okay. Cameron Renda has become my best friend, but Shen is low-key like a dad. Like, he checks me so much, and I'm just so thankful for that father figure in my life.
All right. Before we go any further down any of these paths, I think that'll be the end of Senator Shoutouts. All right, Maddie, you're up.